Maybe Ray of Frost is... I mean, Ray of Frost is a fantastic card. Maybe that's just good enough.
What do you want to freeze, though, from OTK Paladin? I think you go for the upgrade. The only benefit I see to Ray of Frost is maybe 2 things to buff an Edwin, but it's not in hand.
Yeah.
So I like the upgrade. Oh, he's just going to go for it now, too. To me, that seems a bit weird.
Well, I think Flurry looks like he just wants to go as quick as possible. And just kill Tom. Look at his hand. Double Eviscerate, Leroy, and there's the Myras. So it's just like, go, go, go. And one like weird thing about Shark, it's a very slow turn to develop it, but it creates a bonkers turn normally the turn after. There's number 2. But also, the Shark being killed by this True Silver, I feel, is fine. Like, Flurry got value from it, and the True Silver didn't actually kill a minion that is an attacking form of minion.
It is a bit of a sad hand for Flurry, though, because without the preps, it's going to be very difficult to empty this hand in the way he wants to, because obviously you want to draw as much as possible with Myras, but you don't want to be throwing out the Eviscerates and Leroy before it's lethal, because the Paladin just heals up immediately after. And the Shark has no synergy in the hand unless you want the anti-synergy with Leroy.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of ways you can play this, and it definitely depends on any more generated cards that Flurry gets, but you can slowly just poke damage and kind of just bait Tom into not going there and then go 14 plus anything on board. And I think that's might be what he has to do. Because
right now, I think he's on a hope to top deck Miscreant plan.
Yeah. Or
even Blink Fox is fine. Yeah.
SI7 Agent would be fine at this point. Oh, the one he can't play in the same turn as Shark. I think he just waits though.
I think he just drops the Life Drink or Hero
Really?
Power.
I think Shark Hero Power, kill the 1/1 and just push for 3. Next turn you can push additional 6 with Life Drinker, plus whatever card you draw. I think that's how you do it, right? You just want to not look like you're setting up lethal, because it's just side bonuses of the Shark.
Sure.
It sounds really weird to play these kind of mind games, but Flurry's actually going for the Life Drinker now. Interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking you might need to hold on to the Shark for more value, because I just don't think this hand gets there. Even though you're sitting on 14 damage, you have the Myras, the Paladin can just time out.
Right.
And then you die to fatigue. No, you won't immediately, but of course they can just time out 2 turns in a row. In one of those turns, they fit in the heal, and then you have absolutely nothing to do. I'm not sure if this is correct, though, because sometimes you just have to do what your hand tells you to do, and Flurry's hand is telling him to end the game as quickly as possible.
Also as well, by playing the Life Drinker first, it means that within the same space of time you still deal 6. So that's just, because it gets to attack, right? So it's not the end of the world in terms of just how much damage gained, but there's a timeout already. Tom's just saying a hard pass.
Yeah, because his hand is so terrible that he needs to get rid of things, and this is the... Ooh, yeah, that is a whoa. But that is the problem with running Acolyte sometimes. It's too clunky. You play it, and you risk your opponent overdrawing you, versus just playing something like another Elven Archer, or even Blood Mage Thalnos. At least it only draws 1 card guaranteed.
Okay, do you want to know my play? Dire Frenzy, wait for the Shivala, and then Myra's into heal.
You do the thing.
He didn't see the line!
Well, that line only works if you're above 25 the whole time.
He's above 25 right now, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Andy has a Regenerate.
But the counter spell, that's a kicker right there.
I mean, I guess that's okay. But that would have been sick.
Yeah.
Rogue, Dire Frenzy's the Shivala, and then Myra's to draw them.
Yeah. So this is absolutely a result of Flurry not going for the all-in game plan and trying to maximize value from the Shark to get another chance to get something that Tom simply cannot play around 100%, which is this counterspell. Of course, there is still some counterplay if Tom just... Ooh.
Okay.
Wow, that's like 2 turns of delay.
Yeah, and Paladin's not really playing anything that you can throw away, right?
So I think the timeout is much less relevant than the counterspell, because essentially they just don't play anything on your timeout turn, and then they take 1 more fatigue.
Right.
So it's relevant if you've gotten damage onto them that they feel like they absolutely need to lethal you this turn, and no later than that. But because Tom is very healthy, I think the timeout, it's not necessarily going to be great, but of course it's very useful. at some point.
It can also be pretty good in not putting yourself below 25. Yeah, if you want to
Sure,
trade, or there's a turn where you can't stop the minions, so you don't want to get put that low. This is kind of funny because Flurry's going to receive the end of this very flexible Elven Archer right now. If we really, well, you killed one of the 1/1s. Well, my Archer deals 1, so that makes up the difference.
And I'm just thinking if Tom has a way to play around the counter spell. Okay, so obviously going Banker and Holy Wrath is 7 damage expended in the turn, so he could proc a counter spell with timeout, but I doubt he's gonna be holding the timeout the entire game. It depends though. I think he's still got a Crystology left, so that can also proc counter spell. But obviously he won't be thinking to hold on to spells until...
Right, well you need to draw your deck, and your spells draw your deck, right?
Exactly, until the counter spell comes out. So I think this part of the game is very much a formality. Obviously, Flurry has this game plan of using the counter spell, and going for Myra's means that he is not waiting to go for that game plan. I feel like the Myra's is counterintuitive to the counter spell. So he has to decide now what's the line. Is he going for the aggro?
I don't think he can, right? He only has 2 Eviscerates, and and of course Myra's.
Yeah, but Leroy's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, he's used Leroy, and also in the deck there's like there's a Life Drinker, there's Tog, and I'm already running out of cards that are even remotely aggressive.
Yeah. I guess Miscreant's getting lackeys and stuff.
Yeah,
but
sure. Very difficult game from Flurry here.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this position I'd be inclined to just hope Tom messes up and hope that the counterspell gets you there, prevent the 1 Holy Wrath. Obviously, he still has to worry about the other Holy Wrath at that point, though.
That's it, right? He actually needs to do it in there's counterspell now.
So if he's going for this now, that means he plans to Myra's next turn.
Not bad as well. He does have the Regenerate, which is an easy card to just use and empty out the hand.
So Tom, gonna start with a Novice and test for Mirror Entity. No, so that's not it. So there's 5 other possible Mage Spirits, secrets from his perspective. Yeah. I think he is fine just going for a True Silver on this because he's seen Leroy Abyss already. He knows there are no lackeys in hand, and he's seen a Life Drinker and both Sharks, so some crazy damage lackey plus Shadow Step thing is not too scary either. What's unfortunate is he doesn't have healing in hand. So this 3 damage is semi-permanent.
Yeah, he gets the heal from the True Silver, of course. But oh, sorry. Yeah. I want to ask, like, how much does Tom have to consider those cards? The 2 cards he doesn't know could be anything. Because you obviously can't play around everything, but do you ever play around any game-breaking cards? And do you even think about that?
I think not this early on. Obviously, if Flurry were trying to disrupt the combo and have that as his game plan, the counterspell would have come out much later. And then at that point, Tom has to stop and think, oh, do I still have a spell in hand to play around this? Can I do it comfortably? If not, then you just go for it. But I think the fact that Flurry played the counterspell really early should signal to Tom that he's not trying to take this game to the very end. Otherwise, he could have tried and tricked me that way. So this is looking like a Myra. Yeah.
You think he's going to play the timeout? Is timeout worth a card? I guess it is, if you Flurry at least.
Ooh, Edwin though.
And the Waggle pick as well, definitely nothing to sniff at in terms of damage, and with only a timeout as effective heal, I'll call it, Tom could just die.
Well, he could, yeah. I mean, the Shrink Ray will deal with the Edwin, but Tom doesn't have healing.
And also, as well, well, there's a heal, but also the Shrink Ray dealing with just an Edwin is a very expensive card that just beats 1 card, right? Yeah. It's 5 mana a lot of his turn. The rest of his turn, he can't draw any more cards outside of that Flash of Light.
Let me think.
I feel like Tom might want to play 1 Holy Wrath here just for cycle, as opposed to going for something like Shrink Ray and Flash of Light. The scary thing is that means he's not healing this turn. But having seen double Abyss and Leroy...
He can heal timeout, right?
Oh, so instead of the Edwin. Yeah, okay.
If you leave Cleave, you can, well, especially now with the Pyro, but you can always just Shrink Ray next turn if you take 0 damage this turn.
Yeah, this is obviously really good because Flurry also just fatigues for an extra one and can do nothing about it.
Except timeout.
Sprint! Woohoo!
Those are literally
Garbage.
the worst set of 3 road cards I've ever seen in a game. In this situation, of course. Oh, deal 2's not bad.
With the Shadow Step, sure. He might prefer to Shadow Step the Life Drinker. And I think he's fine to just equip the Waggle pick here because the Bloodsail Corsair is a 1-of. So, like, you're only getting 4 out of it anyway.
I guess, do you need to save the
it.
mana is my question. Is the risk worth the mana? Probably not, right?
Well, I think to maximize damage, you would want to go Life Drinker, Step Life Drinker. And you can't fit in the Lackey with the Waggle pick if you do that, right?
Okay.
Well, there's the Corsair. Obviously, this is just
So
going to be...
Flurry got away with it.
Yeah.
Just.
Or maybe he wants to set up a board where, like, the Waggle pick and the Life Drinker is on board. Oh, well, he'll have seen the Corsair now, so the Waggle's going to get the max damage in.
Yeah, that's really good. Because also, because of the minions he has, it means that the second swing can guarantee that extra Shadow Step. Well, did Tom really need to play that 1-2?
I do not know.
It's easy for us to say because we can see Flurry's plan. But did killing 1 charge of a 1-attack weapon when Flurry doesn't play Deadly Poison, for example, or Greenskin?
So he needs timeout. Obviously, Flurry doesn't play a minion there to deny the Shrivala healing something, but Tom is just gonna go for the lethal because
he just gets it
last
because
card
Shrivala
in
was
deck.
literally his last card.
Oh my gosh!
Tom played the game perfectly without the knowledge that Shrivala. You don't need to run bankers if Shrivala's the bottom 30th card. That's pretty nuts.
I don't think I've seen that either in my day of Shrivala just naturally being last and then not playing the banker.
I think I've only seen the Holy Wraths come out when it's desperation, like say 5 cards left, your Holy Wrath and cross your fingers. It hits the Shrivala. But yeah, Flurry had a fantastic moment and a fantastic setup. And it's, I guess, I'll say not disappointing for me because I'm just casting, I don't mind. But it's just kind of disappointing for Flurry, I guess, to be like, oh, there was no setup required. I just died at that turn. So that's kind of nuts. Flurry takes a loss against Tom so far, 0-1 against his Holy Wrath Paladin. From the way we've seen it so far today, maybe Paladin was just the pick this week. But Flurry isn't currently on his flawless victory run so far for nothing. He might be able to fight back, so find out after this.
We recently revealed Hearthstone. Tiered esports program. Masters qualifiers are already well underway, and now we're ready to share details on the highest level of competitive play, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Are you ready to unlock all the secrets of Hearthstone Grandmasters?
Come close and listen.
Here goes. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of Hearthstone esports, composed of 48 of the best pro players in the entire world. Grandmasters is divided into 3 regions: Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, with each represented by 16 pros. These pros are selected by special invitation from Blizzard Entertainment. Criteria for selection include lifetime earnings, Hearthstone competitive points earned, contributions to the Hearthstone community, and more. So who are the lucky Grandmasters? Stay tuned because in the coming weeks we'll be revealing the inaugural Grandmaster roster region by region. In 2019, there will be 2 seasons of Hearthstone Grandmasters. Each season will feature 8 weeks of world-class competition played out in online tournaments. Grandmasters pros will earn both prize money and performance-based bonuses during the season, and they will automatically qualify to compete at all Hearthstone Masters Tour events, guaranteeing these marquee tournaments feature the fiercest competitors possible. And the best part? You won't miss a second of the action because matches will be broadcast live on twitch.tv/playhearthstone. 5 matches will be broadcast every Friday, with 5 more every Saturday. And if that isn't enough Hearthstone action, there will be 6 matches broadcast every Sunday.
More souls!
Mark your calendars because the first season begins on May 17th. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of professional Hearthstone, where the world's best pros battle it out every weekend online. Think you've got what it takes to reach the top? The path to Grandmasters starts with our Masters qualifier tournaments, so sign up today.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure.
We are back with Flurry versus Tom 60229, and Tom currently taking the lead with that Holy Wrath Paladin, been pretty impressive at least so far today. And I believe both players are going to be sticking on their primary decks as well. So if we just take a quick glance at the notes, there's Hench Clan Thugs and 2 Walk the Planks in one of Flurry's lists, and then 2 Preparations, because it's Flurry, and 1 Underbelly Fence and 2 Fan of Knives in his other. So both lists for Flurry at least, outside of maybe just relying on Hench Clan Thugs, are going to be good enough, but he loses a Waggle Pick, SI7 Agent, Ziliax, so on.
Yep.
I guess the list just, the secondary and tertiary just aren't good enough to get the job done versus Paladin.
Well, I think the secondary was specifically for Mage, and yeah, the benefit of running 2 Thugs doesn't seem worth the downside of running 2 Walk the Plank, so I do agree with his decision to stick with the primary, and now he's on the coin with Edwin, and that is the way you blow out this matchup, because Edwin comes down way before Shrink Ray is available for Tom to try and deal with it, and Tom, because he's sticking with the primary, he's not running the Humility, which could, wow. This could be a very big cleave.
Yeah, I think the humilities are there for the mages too as well. So both players having decks that, you know, maybe could get a bit of work done, but not for the trade-offs of the cards they swapped out. A big deal as well is because Equality, you know, fairly recently got nerfed to 4 mana. It means you can't even try and set up 2 turns of it, you know, Equality into something quick enough to kill Edwin.
Yeah.
It's actually just too slow, and
Well,
I wonder what we're going to see from Flurry in the next couple of turns in terms of this cleave.
it might not get that huge because there are not enough backstab targets, but if Tom goes for the hero power here, and most signs point to him probably doing it, although there's a lot of reason to not to deny backstab, but
I think you never do it, right? What does he even do? I don't know.
I feel like if you are on coin and you're denying your opponent backstab into Miscreant, you would not hero power, but I think because he's on the play and the most likely answer from Flurry is to just dagger, I think it's fine. But yeah, now that he's done that, there is an Edwin. I mean, of course, this is being very results oriented. I could not tell you if it was objectively correct or not to hero power.
And it might not be the craziest Edwin in the world, but it's also not being answered anytime soon, unless...
the non-backstab means that Equality...
Equality's going to get the job
I
done.
wonder if... I mean... I feel like it's a good idea to backstab there, not just because I see double Equality, but we know that there's double Equality in the list.
Maybe Flurry considered that if the Equality comes down, this is what the board state looks like, because Tom can't do anything else, and maybe just having the inequality used up and your opponent doing nothing else means that having a 3-1 that can keep pushing and he has enough value in hand, especially with a shadow stat, means he can keep going. Now, don't get me wrong, I think in hindsight, a backstab for not losing the Edwin is very powerful.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're trying to get an idea of what's going to come up in the future, Flurry might think the backstab is actually worth keeping way more.
Well, backstab is only good to perhaps easily deal with Crystal Smith Kangor in this matchup, in my opinion. And obviously, the Shadow Step there on a Blink Fox is not great value, but he had to do it to prevent his board from being one-shotted by Consecration. Right. So, yeah, I do think not backstabbing there was a big mistake. And Oh my gosh, that's really sad.
The old 5-mana draw, one card.
And Tom knows exactly what card that is, either Backstab or Shadow Step that is, because there's no preparation.
Yeah, and it's just roughly more likely to be Shadow Step because one Backstab's already been used.
So is a Shadow Step on the
he already used, sorry, yeah, so it's 50-50, okay.
Yeah.
I actually forgot after all that.
But yeah, the way this is panned out is Flurry has 1 minion with no attack in hand and a fair amount of burst, and things could very well change with 1 draw of Miscreant, but...
I mean, he does have 12 damage overall. It's not too bad.
Could have gotten 12 damage more if that Edwin stuck. Oh, the Myris changes a lot. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely the way to go. Just got 2 more lackeys. Depending on what he gets, I wouldn't mind just going for the Mysterious Rate. But since he has the Witchy too, that's gotta come down this turn, I think.
Deal 4, make a 4-drop, and have 2 1/1s on the board. Seems okay to me.
So he's holding on to the... Okay, the Kobold will still most likely deal 4 next turn because you're not expecting Tom to go for a huge board clear on this state. But this is a sick timeout. And Tom's turns have been taking... It's pretty funny when your hardest turn is turn 2, whether or not you hero power. And then everything else, Tom has been playing rapid pace.
Ooh. Ancestral Spirit, I guess, is good. Makes something a little bit more survivable. The Redemption's a big deal. It turns that weapon into a Fiery War Axe.
And
at also...
though.
Really?
I mean...
Redemption's sick. There's no weapon removal from the... Oh, sorry, Tom's running the 1 Bloodsail Corsair.
Yeah.
But it would give him a...
I mean, it's just on curve next turn. It's something to do before Myra's.
But
and
kill him next turn.
I mean... I think he expects a board wipe this turn. This looks like it needs to get shrunk. Shrunk raid or second equality.
I don't know. I feel like with that turn, he has like 13 damage next turn, right? From
So
hand.
what did... So you wanted to redeem the... Or, I mean, so you would think that the 4/3 gets redeemed because it has the Death Rattle, Tom hits into it, and then it's...
if it's all cleared, right?
Yeah.
I don't... Well, for me, it's more just activating the weapon for extra damage.
Sure.
And it's a cheap spell. Because I feel like Paladin can deal with slow, clunky minions. And I feel like he's so close to just lethal if he... I mean, he's only a little bit of damage off anyway, but I feel this Power of Creation unless he gets exactly charged minions. And there are a couple, don't get me wrong. But I feel like it's 8 mana do one thing.
Well, I think it would be fine on this turn if there wasn't a Pyro stuck on the board. Now it makes it very awkward because now Tom just needs another Shrink Ray. But had there not been a Pyro and Tom had to, for example, go Pyro into Shrink Ray because he wouldn't have another spell activator, then you stick 2 Styx drops, which I think have average decent stats, probably requires either another timeout or another board clear. And then you just have that another round of threats. Combo card from your deck. Miscreant is a combo card. But I don't know if you want to rush a 5/3 into...
Right?
Don't think you want to rush a 5/3 into a Pyro, but probably just take the Wardens. The spell damage is sweet with the double Abyss.
Yeah, it seems good overall, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was looking at Hogger just for more stuff, but I don't think...
With a Pyro and board seems really sketchy,
I don't think the stuff's
right?
enough, right? Like, you just want it as big as possible.
I just want to highlight this Backstab has been in hand since it did not kill the Novice on turn 3. Yeah, Tom has definitely turned the corner now here.
We could be leading to, or at least witnessing, Flurry's first series defeat in Grandmasters so far to Tom, because this is looking progressively more rough.
Yeah, Tom's got 3 more sources of card draw in hand if you count the Soup Vendor. 9 cards left in deck. But Flurry is sitting on quite a lot of burst, still has the Leroy in the deck. I wouldn't count him out yet. But yes, now the Backstab gets something to do because, yeah, as I mentioned, Kangor's probably the best minion. You want to hit it on in a vacuum.
Crystology not really what Tom's after right now. His hand is super full.
I don't think it even draws anything anymore, does it? He does not have Thalnos.
Elven Archer? He's not played, right?
Yeah. Right, just the one Elven. But you would rather Crystology to get that draw as opposed to drawing it off of the Novice, because that's just net one more draw. So I think it might come down this turn. He could go for some type of Pyro play. It's quite expensive though.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good, does it? Maybe he just draws cards and times out and says, I'll deal with it next turn. Because suddenly on 23, just 7, 8 with the dagger, if you're just going to add that on anyway, like 8 damage from 23 health is actually starting to get into scary territory for Tom, I think, in terms of his thoughts on the fact he might die, especially that Flurry's held 2 cards on the far left for most of the game now. It's a little bit scary. Is he going for the Pyro?
Pyro Crystology. Oh, he's even fitting in the Acolyte. Okay, and then he immediately plays the Archer. Although
what does that do, though?
It just gets it out of hand, basically.
Okay. Seems like a very weak turn to use Pyro.
Notably, now he doesn't have the 30 from hand possibility either. And I think we've seen the Consecrates come out, so... Oh, he's only even got 1 in the primary.
So he cut the Consecrates.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's effectively just +1 damage with the Goblin Lackey. If he chooses to use it that way on a live minion, but I feel like in this, maybe he buffs the Miscreant and runs it into the Pyroblast to just stop some shenanigans the turn after.
Possibly.
He will just drop the Prelate down.
I just want to drop as many things as possible so we can Myra soon and run into that Leroy as soon as possible.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it always bugs me a little bit when people don't put the Lackey to the left of an actively attacking minion, because Direwolf Alpha is a card, but that's a very, very small consideration. And that is a premium minion to rush. Gets him armor, which puts him even further out of the Shirvala OTK range.
And also with 6 cards still left for Tom, it's unlikely you're going to be Chevaled in the next turn or so. And also there is just notes of saying, don't let someone randomly Cheval you, as in they have to just roll that 1 out of 4 or whatever. So the armor is very, very nice, and we see it come into play here. So that's 3 armor now, maybe even more later if this 3-1 doesn't get cleaned up.
He takes the trade. Lots of respect. I think he just wants to stay as healthy as possible, whereas if you leave the Archer, there's a possibility Tom clears your board and pushes the 1 with the Archer.
And that's a big deal when True Silver Champion, plus the Chevala combo can get you from 30.
Has Tom used the Holy Wrath? That came from Flurry, right? And it dealt 0?
Yes.
Okay, so Tom can go for the 50 over 2 turns. So he can draw, like, if he wants to, 2 right now, and then put the timer down to 1 more turn. He's used both Pyro, so I feel like we are likely going to see the timeout happen this turn, but he should start withdrawing. Alternatively, he could do this, but then you're giving up the 50 over 2 turns.
It's kind of tough, right? This hammer's actually a bit of a problem too. The Hammer of Wrath's nice for just extra damage to face, but...
Oh!
He's just going for it. Or going for the potential of the extra damage.
Sure, okay.
5, okay.
Well, here's my question. If
He's
you're going to do that...
Wait, did you do the wrong order there?
Yeah, shouldn't you draw with the Soup Vendor first by attacking with Shirvala, and then you turn it into a 1 in 4 that you hit the 25?
Also, you attack with the Chevala first because your opponent was on 30 and the Ziliac sealed him back up, right?
Yeah. And the Ziliac
oh, no, it didn't heal him back up because of the Divine Shield on the Chevala.
Was it still health?
Because the Ziliax doesn't do any damage, right? Yeah. So it's an order if you consider lifesteal, but when you put the Divine Shield in there, it doesn't matter.
I think the order is there for narrowing the deck a bit more, so because obviously you'd rather deal a 25 than 5.
Right.
So it gives you a 1 in 4 instead of a 1 in 5. Although it's very close and the rope was burning, it's a tough decision to use Shirvala at all that turn.
Can he scheme the 3-1, the mech? Just play all armor mechs
I
and
don't
try and
hate it.
out-armor.
I honestly do not hate it.
But you also want the card out of your hand, and then you Myras into just tons of 2/2s that gain you armor.
I mean, from Flurry's perspective here, if he knows that the remaining damage from hand of Tom is only Consecrate and Hammer of Wrath, then he just has to stay at this 31 for the rest of the game, and Tom can never OTK him. In fact, it would take 2 turns to go for Hammer of Wrath, Consecrate, and the Shirvala 25. That's just 30.
Yeah, because it's just the mana cost of everything you have to do in the given turn.
I think Tom may have locked himself out of this game. I don't know if it was strictly wrong because, oh, there's still
That
a
one
True
helps.
Silver. Yeah. Okay. Wait,
Now
is that an ice cream?
It is. It got evolved, yeah.
Okay.
So
Do you
now...
remember the card text on that?
No.
Doesn't that deal some...
It's to do with being frozen, right?
Yeah. I know that Hunter Ace has it in his
Hunter Ace would
secondary.
know,
Yeah, so it must heal somehow.
So right now, there is guaranteed lethal for Tom on his side, as in from his view.
Yeah.
So Flurry's the one who has to do something miraculous right now.
I forgot that there was still a True Silver, so that makes it perfectly fine for Tom to expend the...
Life Drinker doesn't get him there. He can't play 2. So I believe with the weapon swing, and that is just going to be game. And that didn't look simple. I think there were just bits of that game on both players' side that could have gone different ways depending on how they played it out. But the way they did choose to play it out, I think Flurry had a bit of a rough hand in the early game there. He did have the good Van Cleef, but just the double Abyss again just catching him. But Tom is going to do the thing, the Baleful Banker into Shivala into the deck. The only minion, which means Holy Wrath is going to smack him at 425. And then the True Silver with the final extra push of damage, which I feel is what this deck's all about right now, is how do you deal the extra damage?
Right.
Because decks are so good at healing out of range. But congratulations to Tom. Another good run with his Paladin. We've got to be careful because next week's going to be all Holy Wrath Paladin potentially, because it's only getting stronger, right? With the Christology buff being at 1 mana, that is just a cheaper card that does exactly the same job it does today.
If anyone didn't know, the buffs are dropping on June 3rd, which is right after the end of this GM, and next week will be potentially a completely different meta.
Yeah, it will be, because every single class is going to have 2 cards that have been just strictly buffed.
Yeah.
No matter which way you look at it. So this could go a bit nutty next week, but let's focus on this week. Tom taking a win over Flurry means Flurry is finally defeated in Grandmasters, and Tom is going to work his way up. He was currently sitting at 3rd, but that extra win puts him on par with Flurry now, which is a huge, huge deal. So good job to Tom, and that's match number 3 of the day. We've got 2 more, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with my Asia Pacific Grandmasters.
Welcome to Hearthstone Masters. Today, we're going to share one of the biggest changes coming to Hearthstone in 2019, an entirely new competitive format called Specialist. Specialist will be the default competitive format for Hearthstone Masters. From online Masters qualifiers to live Masters Tour events to the pinnacle of competition, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Ready to learn how the new Specialist format works? Let's dive right in. In this new competitive format, players select 3 30-card decks to bring to a Specialist tournament. The catch? All decks must be from the same class. In this regard, Specialist is a major departure from most other competitive formats. Amongst every player's 3 Specialist decks, 1 is designated as the primary deck. The player's other 2 decks are designated as secondary and tertiary decks. There are no special limitations placed on a player's primary deck aside from regular Hearthstone deck construction rules. However, a player's secondary and tertiary decks must share at least 25 cards in common with their primary deck. In other words, secondary and tertiary decks must mirror the primary deck with up to 5 cards swapped out. It is important to point out that duplicate cards count when comparing to a primary deck. For example, if you want to include 2 copies of Twilight Drake in your secondary deck, and there are no copies of Twilight Drake in your primary deck, then you must spend 2 swaps to include both cards. Unique or not, if a card isn't in your primary deck, it counts towards the 5-card difference limit. A player's primary deck is important for another reason. Whenever a new match starts, both its players must begin by piloting their primary deck. Only after the first game concludes can you choose to swap into your secondary or tertiary deck. You do not announce which of your decks you will be using in the next game, and you do not have to swap. After every game, this process repeats, allowing players to swap or stay until the match concludes. Importantly, you can swap to any of your decks between games, primary, secondary, or tertiary, including returning to your primary deck if you have previously swapped out of it. And those are all the rules for Specialist, Hearthstone's new official competitive format. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and start brewing your own primary, secondary, and tertiary decks to get a jump start on the new format and innovate like the pros.
Let the battle begin! Dalaran will be ours! Once we land, you know what to do! No we don't. You didn't tell us to play it. I didn't think I had to. It's perfectly obvious. Bank! I am to be robbing the bank! I take henchmen for vault smashing and shiny stealing! Plan is obvious! It's a start, yes, but...
You won't get a single coin unless you take care of the city's guards! Let's rip open Violet Hole and unleash the prisoners on the city! That'll keep the guards busy!
Certainly, but that's not...
No! First, we must sow chaos in the streets.
I got rockets! Anyone need rockets? Try to see the big picture! Shiny, shiny, shiny!
We have to break their will before we can loot, you fools!
Please, everyone, please!
Let's strap some rockets to the city.
Oh, big countdown! And then we just take the whole shebang wherever we want! Yes! Finally, you're exactly right!
Seriously?
That's dumb.
Ah, weak candle! Just wait till second gear kicks in! It's just like I said! We're going to take Dalaran for all that it's got! It's a genius plan! It's simple! It should have been obvious! And absolutely nothing will go wrong.
So, genius, how do we land?
Welcome back, everyone. We've got Alutimu versus Staz coming up for you for match number 4 of today's Grandmasters from the Asia Pacific region. And this is a matchup from both ends of their division table, with Alutimu currently second place with 3 wins and 1 loss, and Staz currently bottom place with 1 win and 3 losses. So this is going to be a big deal for both players. Alutimu can progress his standing and try and move forward, especially with Flurry taking the loss in the previous match. And Staz really needs to get some wins on the board because time is running out. Let's take a look at what Staz has submitted this week. He did go Mage and then Mage, but I believe it was the minion-based Mage into Cyclone Mage. And now he's going to go over to Bomb Warrior. And honestly, favorite deck out of all the ones Staz has submitted based on the meta. And I feel like as the only other Warrior player, he's had a really good pick this time.
Yeah, I think Bomb Warrior is a decent pick, but I'm not too sure about having the double weapons Project Harrison in the primary, especially if you're expecting Rogue to not be that popular. But he did hit a Rogue, so it is going to work out for him, and maybe that's just the meta read that Stats had, and there are 4 Rogues in Asia Pacific, and 2 of them, the Japanese players Alutimu and Glory, are bringing the double waggle pick version. So of course the weapons project is even better against that one.
Yeah, I do feel as well that the weapons project isn't so bad at all versus Mage either. The card draw is always nice when combined with Harrison, but most importantly, it stops them just being able to play a 2-drop. and just do, either do things or play a Tempo Sorcerer's Apprentice, for example, to try and contest your board, because the Weapons Project deals with so many of all the minions that aren't the Mountain Giant side of the deck, of course, as well as helping out with some shield slams as well. So I don't mind it overall. Of course, there are 0 mages in APAC, so it won't matter, but with some, I don't think anyone was expecting 0 mages. I don't think that's a fair assumption. So I actually don't mind the Weapons Project at all. But let's check out Olutuma's list. His opponent, who, as you mentioned, Gia, is on the Rogue, and this looks very similar to the Rogue we just saw from Flurry, but I spy a little sap there as well, which is not a card I'm too upset with.
Yeah, the Alutemu and Glory Rogue lists are a lot more aggressive by including the double deadly poisons and deckhands, and instead removing the Burgle package of the Blink Foxes and what's it called, Hench Clan Burglar, compared to what Flurry and co were running. But it's still got the Spirit of the Shark, Life Drinker package, and of course Evil Miscreant is, I would say, the core of the deck and what makes it so powerful. So I'm not sure if particularly the Burgle package would be better against warriors, because in general you want to have more value against warrior, but bomb warrior is not like control warrior. Sometimes you just need to be able to deal with their minions more efficiently in the early game and then snowball that advantage.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, isn't it? Because it just shows as well how much Rogue, especially straight after the nerfs, just still isn't figured out, because although Flurry's list has similarities, this has double pick, as you mentioned, some of the more aggressive options, so Deadly Poisons, for example, as well as Deckhands. And there's even the preps in there, but for me, there's even the other lists mainly around Europe that have still got Raiding Party, for example, that's still running the Dread Corsairs because of just the sheer tempo of where you can still pick and then play 2 Dread Corsairs, which is just a powerful turn no matter which way you look at it. So it's still all up in the air for Rogue for me, and I think this is one of the strengths of Warrior overall right now, is that the deck is more or less sorted. You know what your flex spots are, and you know what those different cards you can use actually does. So, like we mentioned, the Weapons Project, you know what it can do, whereas Rogue is still fairly unexplored and might have some weaknesses in these initial builds. But let's go into game number 1.
Just want to throw in a quick correction there. Staz's Twitter handle is not @Staz, it is @StazDingo, which should not be going unknown because that is the greatest Hearthstone Twitter handle I've heard.
Pun-wise, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll take it.
No bias. Even Frodan thinks so. But anyway, we are going to go into game 1. Rogue on the coin, always happy to be so. I don't think any of these cards are particularly good against Bomb Warrior, though. He will just keep the deckhand for a sure play on turn 1 if he doesn't see an Eternium Rover. And Staz is only running the 1 Rover, so I don't mind this. Only the 1 of Town Crier as well.
There's also potential as well that it actually does just kill a Clockwork Gnome. Goblin, sorry.
Sure.
Let's get the correct expansion. Let's not go years back in time when Clockwork Gnome was played. But yeah, it does kill a Clockwork Goblin, and there aren't too many things that deal with this outside of, say, the Weapons Project. Yeah. So basically, it's just free damage to play on turn 1. I know there's a lot of discussions in the past when do you play Deckhand in which matchups, but it's so regularly coming down as it's just guaranteed. Not many decks are even running 1-drops at the moment.
Double Miscreant. Now, Altemu can think about how he wants to order this, but it looks like coin Miscreant into probably Cable Rat next turn, and then a Lackey plus the other Miscreant is the most natural way to go about it, and he will have an abundance of Lackeys to activate the Togwaggle should turn 7 roll around.
Also, not bad that you got the Witchy Lackey there, because Witchy onto the Miscreant afterwards is another power play that you basically evolve it from a 3-drop into a 4-drop, which means that it is, or could be big enough to actually deal with some of these early mechs that Staz might be dropping down.
This is the rare situation where the Rush Lackey is actually really good though, so he could one-shot the Acolyte. It's not going to happen in this case. I wonder if this is threatening enough to use an Eviscerate on. I do not think so. You might start with the Ethereal and see from there.
You've got to think of a little bit forward too as well, because if you're going to just ignore it, then you're also playing probably your own Miscreant again, right? Oh, sorry, can't. So he's going to be playing a Lackey, which all these things can guarantee like minimum 2 draws. It's kind of tough.
Ooh, if the Scale Worm had Rush.
If only its Battle Cry went off and there was a dragon in hand.
So he is just going to use the Eviscerate this way. And I definitely respect this. I think that the 2 damage I mean, the 4 damage burst is probably not as relevant as denying the extra draw from the warrior. And he also keeps the deckhand on board this way.
And it's the fact that the extra draw is 100% guaranteed because it just trades into a minion. It's not as if, oh, I'll just hope they don't have Warpath. It's like there's literally minions on the board that give it value trades.
Yeah.
So that's a true fear factor there.
Yeah. For stats here, it looks like the Militia Commander into the Scale Worm is the most mana efficient play. Of course, it sucks to leave it on board when it just dies to a lackey, but he can just follow up whatever board remains with Warpath.
I feel like a lot of the time, once the warrior gets one handle on the board, just for one turn, they secure it. They're fairly safe just because of the way mechs work. So I think anything for Staz to just even up this board a little bit would be nice.
These are not great. Obviously, second Myris is completely useless. The Chief Shot is super slow, and I don't think there are any Death Rattle minions in the deck.
Nope.
So I guess Chief Shot is the only thing that maybe gets used. At the very least, yeah, I could see it like removing a Zilliax that you would not rather not put minion damage into, so it doesn't get the lifesteal.
Also as well, relatively cheap combo activator. It's not crazy, not super cheap, but good enough.
And Alutamu has just had a very solid grasp on the board here. It seems like he might be able to go into turn 6 with just sticking a lackey on board because it's been very difficult for Staz to deal with all of these. And this turn remains awkward. You do not want a Warpath just to kill 2 things and leave the Miscreant on board. The Wrench Caliber is off curve. The lack of a Dynomatic, I think, really hurts Staz here.
I think Omega Assembly would be fine here. Start with Omega and then just Wrench Caliber the 2-1 away if nothing strikes you fancy.
I wonder if you maybe even Wrench Caliber the Miscreant, so you can set up a better Warpath, but that makes it very weak to second Witchy Lackey.
I'm just worried about how much damage this deckhand's done this game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's actually absurd.
I mean, it's attacked every turn since turn 2, so like 6.
Turning Rover, definitely not bad. No massive benefit to going Coppertail. There's no Zilliax in hand to then magnetize it to. So I think a turning Rover is just not bad.
Well, I'm thinking this just
Coppertail.
sticks on board, and then next turn you can Warpath, and this thing probably value trades the Miscreant. It just feels really awful to Wrench Caliber a 2-1 when the rest of your hand is saying make sure Alutamu's board is wide so you can take advantage of your brawls and your Warpaths.
I mean, as long as he sets up a turn to just get Boom down quickly, I think Staz is going to be happy either way. I think that's what he's going to focus on, is what's the best turn that secures an on-curve Boom. Because I feel like that's the way Staz really secures this game, is just get Boom down and then cash in on basically all of the benefits of that hero card.
Rush Lackey, not too great here. Alutamu may or may not just drop an SI7. I feel like with the SI7, that makes the board already like good enough to brawl from Staz, and then that means, well, a brawl is out of the way. Good for you. If he just goes for Lackey and Hero Power here, I think the Warpath is kind of a huge punish. Well, triple Warpath does kill SI, but it will kill the Coppertail in the process too.
And it's the whole turn, right?
Yes, yeah.
But maybe, although Warpath cleans this pretty heftily, maybe our team is just cool with a Warpath on a lot of stuff he's generated for free. Like, yes, you used Warpath that can clear most Rogue boards, because Rogue doesn't really go that tall. Then he means that, okay, you spent a turn Warpath in a couple of times and you pressed Hero Power. Nice one.
Ooh, that's an interesting pickup now. So he could just do that and double Warpath, although I'm not sure if having the extra 2 armor as opposed to
it's not better
hero
than just
power.
Hero Power,
yeah,
right?
I'm pretty sure.
And also think in 2 turns it gains Rush.
Yeah.
And also then can be magnetized afterwards. So I think the potential payoff is worth more, but it's definitely a good pickup for now.
Yeah.
Means it's ready to go for the Boom turn.
So I struggle to see anything but the double Warpath value trade Hero Power here. Seems very clean. You end up with a 4-1. And Alutamu cannot just drop Togwaggle on 6. He will drop it on 7 though, I'm pretty sure.
It feels super weird though, because you'd imagine that in this spot, Alutamu has to, if he had to Tog next turn, he has to actually Togwaggle for the wand to draw more cards. And And the problem with that is once it's done unless you have Shadow Step. So like that's the whole play, is just drawing 3 for 0. And that is a strong play, do not get me wrong.
Yeah.
But still, it's just there's not that super late game value that a lot of people were running Togwaggle for earlier on.
This may or may not be a situation where he goes for Crown over Wand.
Oh, that scares me though. There are a lot of bad legendaries.
For sure, but I think the average stats is like what, at least 5/5, 4/4.
Does that matter to Warrior though? That's my fear. A 3/0 cost rogue cards from your deck better than 2
Well, with the Edwin in hand, that highly incentivizes the draw instead. But of course, that's for turn 7. Right now, Alutemu can go for this cheap shot to do something.
Also, he did go for the Eternium.
Yeah,
I'm really surprised.
Me too. I'm not a big fan of that.
It's literally 2 extra armor that you can just definitely gain later on.
And the 1/1 as a minion on board is not very strong presence, I would agree. Does he ever go for the Edwin this turn? I don't think so, because that would involve using both lackeys if you want to get the Edwin as big as possible, and you never do that.
I should think like...
So he could go 1 lackey, cheap shot Edwin. Makes a 6/6.
I don't know whether he even bothers with the lackey. I'm wondering, yeah, I was thinking just do this, but you could just use cheap shot instead of SI. I mean, taking 1 damage isn't the end of the world, right? But I think even holding, I think the lackey might actually be better than the cheap shot throughout the course of the game.
I think so too. I mean, I could understand lackey if you were going to go for Edwin that turn, but I don't like that plan overall just because you probably want to get the 1.
Yeah. I think cheap shot SI that turn, and then it also means you have 1 extra lackey that if you draw a Shadow Step, it means you can Shadow Step the Tog and have another lackey to actually play later.
Yeah.
But now, don't know about you, Staz, but Boom is playable and you definitely don't die if you play it, so I want to play Boom right now.
Yep.
Yes, the Wrench Caliber looks nice onto the 3/3. Do that next turn, is my suggestion. Who cares?
I would like the Wrench Caliber if he had a minion to play alongside it, so Alutemu, if he goes for the Togwaggle turn, couldn't immediately deal with the minion, but there's just not that much development alongside this that I would have much rather seen the Boom.
Boom's a really good card. I think it's better than Wrench Caliber overall, and what? So is this going to be just a shield? Just armor up?
Okay, I guess.
So now he's missed armor because the Eternium Rover could have been played this turn as well, and he could have armored up the turn before. I don't know.
Even if
I'm confused, Gia.
Yeah, me too. Obviously, it doesn't matter whether or not he clears the lackey because he knows there's still another one at hand. But I would have much rather seen the Boom that turn, especially since it's unlikely all that armor gets shaved, and even if it does, you still have shield block to activate your shield slam. So
the follow-up turn was almost always good, right?
Yeah. By the way, he took the crown, not the 1.
Yeah. That's,
wow.
Again, I'm just. I feel like these players are just doing the opposite of whatever I suggest, which happens quite commonly, believe it or not.
Like, a crown was my first instinct a while ago, but the Edwin kind of pushed me in the other direction. I just don't know if you would rather have 1 really huge Edwin or 2 mid-sized minions. And on this point where Staz is only running the 1 Omega Devastator, and he's not got that much armor, I feel like the 1 Edwin is probably more threatening, whereas 2 legendaries can get brawled away. Close though.
Shield Slam is now usable with the Boom. Armor, of course, going to be help clearing up that Togwaggle. And what's key for me now, if we just sort of reanalyze where we are in the game, is Stars boomed and Wrench Calibered opposite way rounds to what, well, say we suggested, the impact that could make. And also, Alutemu did not have a Shadow Step for the Togwaggle, which means this crown was his one and only pick. Which means that if this crown whiffs, and it does whiff a lot of the time, then you have to wind back and work out whether it's better than 3 0-cost cards from your deck. Do you think Alutemu was just focused on the fact that he has Myras and he didn't see the point in drawing deeper?
Possible, yeah. I don't hate the crown pick overall because, well, now we see that Edwin gets big because of the Shark, which he drew afterward, but it kind of works out in a way where at least he has 2 rounds of threats now. Like,
Right.
there's the Edwin round after you see the Brawl, because Devastator's not active yet this turn, so it kind of requires a Brawl for the Edwin. Then you respond with the Crown. And then after that gets answered, you have the Myras to push for lethal with whatever damage you've pushed in the meantime, and sometimes they don't answer it. So I can see the game plan. I'm just not sure if it's optimal, but...
Maybe I'm just unlucky, because Crown never does anything for me. I think I only discover the bad ones.
Ooh! Speaking of unlucky, Raven.
That was pretty clutch.
Yeah.
Gonna forgo the hero power here. To draw an
I
extra
feel
card.
like that discovers you an Omega Devastator pretty often. And the shield block could have been played next
or
turn.
even a Dynamatic actually
Yeah.
doesn't do the same job, but it's close. It's close. It basically pushes 8 on this Van Cleave.
There was reasonable fear of just dying there. So
Yeah,
fine.
but-
That's fine. I mean, like, because just Leroy Abyss, this is definitely caster vision. I think I probably would have shield blocked
keep
in
you
that, in that
Does
situation.
this keep you alive that often though? Like
Well,
realistically?
yeah, I think the 5 health.
I mean,
because 10 damage is a
do you
very
just die one
realistic
turn
cutoff.
later? Is what I mean. Like, does it actually keep you alive to win the game? I don't know.
It could, because you're boom mode, I think.
Oh, I guess so. Does Dr.
Yeah.
Boom keep you alive?
He has
often?
the other shield block, and he could get Zilliax over Omega Assembly. Yeah, okay, now I like the shield block play. Sorry, I just saw the Leroy, and I just looked and realized, oh wait, he's only at 20. So there are very many rogue combinations of 10 damage, like Leroy Abyss, and then Leroy Cold Blood discovered off of something, things like that.
Many combinations.
Yeah.
Leroy Abyss
no,
twice.
No, come on. Like 2 Abyss, deckhand, SI7 plus deckhand, and then the damage lackey with 7. Okay, there's just 10 is just a number that Rogue can deal very often. But what Warrior cannot deal with is this wide and tall of a board.
Yeah, the shield slam just after he lost all the armor as well.
Yeah.
This Omega Assembly has to be magnificent. Well, that's not bad. It doesn't do enough, but it was as good as it was going to get, I
Well,
think.
he can go shield block, shield slam, and clear 2 of these minions, leave up just a 7/7.
I think that was about as good as it was going to get.
Then he'll go to 20, and Alutamu has 7 on board and loads from hand, so
Yeah.
that is just GG.
I tell a
think.
lie though, I guess Zilliax with the Omega Devastator would have been perfect, right? Because
For
then you just
sure.
trade a 7/7 off heal for 7,
Yeah.
so on, so on, so on, so on. But still, like, you do get Omega Devastator a lot of the time. Oh. Roll into... Well, Shield Slam doesn't get there. You'd have to trade Shield Slam.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's still fine, of course. Oh,
oh my gosh, this Edwin never loses brawls.
what a god.
I don't think it would have made a difference in the long run, but the brawl in that very instance was better than just the Omega Devastator
Right.
and Shield Slam because it does the same thing for 1 card instead of 2. But yeah, that is just gonna be that match in the books. Staz, I think there were many instances where I would have done something differently. Towards the end of the shield block, I take back what I said, though I like the shield block from that other turn. Alutamu, it's just a matter of counter 1. And in that instance, the Crown did not discover Growl the Shark, Edmund Van Cleef, and Face Collector, which are all 2/2, so it was pretty good.
Yeah, it ended up working out pretty well for our team. I do feel like that game was weird. I'm still trying to work out what these newer rogue lists, because there's a fair few of them to work out as well, and how they actually fare versus Bomb Warrior in a consistency way. But our team seemed to make the job look pretty good there. I don't know if that Boomer turn earlier would have made much difference and held the Eternium Rover as well. Maybe the armor changes things a little bit, gives Staz a little bit of an easier shield slam later on. I don't know, but so far Alutimu is making it work, and for second place currently in Division A, he's on his streak, or at least planning to continue it to move on through and try and get to that #1 spot in the division for this week at least. But that's just game #1. We're gonna see if Staz can fight back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
We recently revealed Hearthstone's all-new 3-tiered esports program. Masters qualifiers are already well underway, and now we're ready to share details on the highest level of competitive play, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Are you ready to unlock all the secrets of Hearthstone Grandmasters?
Come close and listen.
Here goes. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of Hearthstone esports, composed of 48 of the best pro players in the entire world. Grandmasters is divided into 3 regions: Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, with each represented by 16 pros. These pros are selected by special invitation from Blizzard Entertainment. Criteria for selection include lifetime earnings, Hearthstone competitive points earned, contributions to the Hearthstone community, and more. So who are the lucky Grandmasters? Stay tuned, because in the coming weeks we'll be revealing the inaugural Grandmaster roster region by region. In 2019, there will be 2 seasons of Hearthstone Grandmasters. Each season will feature 8 weeks of world-class competition played out in online tournaments. Grandmasters pros will earn both prize money and performance-based bonuses during the season, and they will automatically qualify to compete at all Hearthstone Masters Tour events, guaranteeing these marquee tournaments feature the fiercest competitors possible. And the best part? You won't miss a second of the action, because matches will be broadcast live on twitch.tv/playhearthstone. 5 matches will be broadcast every Friday, with 5 more every Saturday. And if that isn't enough Hearthstone action, there will be 6 matches broadcast every Sunday.
More souls!
Mark your calendars, because the first season begins on May 17th. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of professional Hearthstone, where the world's best pros battle it out every weekend online. Think you've got what it takes to reach the top? The path to Grandmasters starts with our Masters qualifier tournaments, so sign up today.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure.
Can Alutimu take down Staz's warrior again with his rogue? Or is Staz going to fight back? These are the questions we're about to answer for you. And Alutimu and Staz are both sticking to their primary list. So both players saying, yes, in this matchup, we have not built tech to deal with it. And just from a quick glance, it pretty much looks like for Alutimu, his secondary deck was very much anti-mage, and his tertiary deck was anti-aggro. And then Staz's is pretty much similar stories. Although, one's anti-control and one is anti-mage specifically. So it looks like both players just aren't prepared for this matchup in terms of their other decks.
It is.
So they are just having to fight with the primaries.
Yeah, it is just kind of funny how this first day at least has worked out, where everybody has had at least one other deck, either the secondary or the tertiary, built for the mage matchup, and there's no mages, yep. So a lot of the time they're going to end up sticking to their primary. And Staz is going to have another shot at it. He had some bad luck with the Edwins winning the brawls, but also some plays that we weren't too sure of. And Alutamu, yeah, he had quite an insane opening hand, to be fair, with the Cable Rat into double Miscreants. Right. So
I do think that, to do.
Right. I do think that overall the warrior is favored in this matchup, though.
And funnily enough, there, I think we just saw from Alutimu a throw of backstab and SI, which is such a common keep, especially when you've got coin too as rogue. And all of those got thrown because there's not often stuff to backstab early on for Alutimu. And if you have coin, it means you can activate 3 drops anyway if you really want to. So he did end up with a Life Drinker and a Eviscerate as well for those throws. So his hand's looking close to mirrored at this point, but it's all stuff he doesn't really want yet.
This is the bane of Rogue these days, where obviously you do not want to have SI and Backstab in a matchup where you are not the reactor. Those cards are great against things like Zoo and Token Druid, but you would much rather be developing your Miscreants and things like that. But because the Tempo Rogue list is very different than the Burgle list, which is running less threats like Blink Fox and Hench Clan Burglar, there's just not that many things you want to do in the early game. It's like Shark, Cable Rat.
It's super weird, right? Because you look at this list that has Sap in it, Double Shadow Step, Deadly Poisons, and Deckhands. But the list doesn't run Hench Clan Thug, which is just a solid play, whether you coin it out or not, right? It's just something you can always do. Whereas SI7 Agent is a little bit more reliable on the, on its combo effect, and so on. And Life Drinkers are turn late, hitting turn 4. So for me, my biggest question is why there aren't Hench Clan Thugs in this deck, and why there's everything else that's aggro, but then double Cable Rat and a Icebound Togwaggle. It really does surprise me a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like this deck is meant for the mirror, the primary at least. We can see Alutamu has the Thugs in the secondary, which are great against Mage, but perhaps not so great in the mirror because they die to Eviscerates and possibly Vendettas very easily. But I don't know.
But at least it's something to do, right?
Yeah.
That's my point of Thug. Thug is just one of those minions that you just play, and it's just good. Most of the time, even if it gets answered, it's decent removal, and you didn't need to set it up outside of maybe having a weapon.
Well, for Staz here, he can just play the Militia Commander to have something to do. I wonder if you ever just armor up pass, because Alutamu's not had a great thing.
I think if you're armor up passing, you probably just equip in Wrench Caliber passing then, right?
Yeah, sure.
There's no weapon removal in Alutimu's deck, which means this Wrench Caliber is safe for the rest of the game if he so chooses, unless there's discovered weapon removal.
Yeah, sorry, it was definitely between Caliber and Militia Commander. I was just going to say maybe not developing a minion is good because Alutamu's not had early game, so you could probably put him on having reactive cards in hand, and you maybe just don't want to give him something to target with his spells.
Especially because Rogue's hero power does not compound on itself very well when you just let them spam hero power. It's not like Warriors or even just Hunters and Priests, so on. It's just, well, Dagger pass. It's a really, really poor turn for Rogue if they're forced into it.
Alutamu is just going to play the Life Drinker despite it dying straight up to the Wrench Caliber. I was thinking about Shadow Stepping the Cable Rat, but it just seems too low value.
Yeah.
The hand needs Miscreant.
One good thing about a hand this bad is it can only get better, right? Like the rest of your deck are the cards you want to draw right now. So at least as soon as Alutimu draws something, he can keep those Shadow Steps and maybe just generate a ton of value from them. If, Miscreant and even just some of the other cards as well. Even just getting the Spear of the Shark down and maybe having strong plays later. But it's a little bit tough. I think trying to eke value out of this Cable Rat is asking a lot of this little dude.
I will say you are a very positive person, Raven. I've never looked at a terrible hand and told myself, well, at least it can only get better. I tend to just bottom right in that instance. But that's on ladder, not in Grandmasters. And Staz has a pretty clean Dynomatic if he wants it here. I feel like it's nice to have something on board that's a mech, so...
And it holds your weapon too, which I think, because he used one charge on effectively a one drop, I think using the weapon now on is a bit overkill, and holding on to it, you might get more value later on. Go for the Zilliax, okay. Keeping all that Dynomatic for maybe more emergency kills. Yeah, there we go. See, your deck can only get better. And now you have Shadow Steps and stuff with this Miscreant to play 1 million lackeys. It's fine.
I think he probably even just eviscerates the Zilliax to do the combo activation.
Yeah, I guess. I wonder whether he wanted it anyway, but...
Oh yeah, this is probably fine because most of the lackeys can deal with it.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect.
You don't mind putting minion damage into it because Staz is full health anyway. But yeah, now that turn is like a little bit strange. I think he would definitely cash in the at least one Shadow Step on the Miscreant as soon as possible because you're not expecting it to stick. But the hand space makes it a little bit strange.
Unless he's considering Leroy into Shadow Step into next turn, Leroy into Shadow Step into next turn, Leroy into Evis.
3-turn lethal.
Without any armor, that could work. I do like this. Yeah. This is literally what I was talking about last turn, of like, if you get something that's value, mainly the Miscreant is the #1 card, of course, then even just a single Shadow Step just gives you so much to do. Like, look, suddenly a board. Okay.
What is that card called?
3/2 man that draws a card.
Thank you so much, production.
Yeah, it draws a card, right, if you have spell power? Or spell damage, sorry.
I have no idea. So double Warpath can clear this.
Maybe... No.
Along with the Wrench Caliber charge. I don't think you're that sad about having to use Wrench Caliber without the Elec. Don't think having the extra bombs helps too much here. He's clearly on a control game plan. He can get Boom on curve.
Is there any way that Warpath into Elec into Swing is ever worth it?
And leave a 3-1. I could see it.
I'll leave the 1-3. Like, the miscreant's done its value, right? If it gets Shadow Stepped again, well, at least 2 Shadow Steps are used, and you've got to deal with an army of 1-drops.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, because then you actually get a minion down.
Okay, I definitely don't like leaving 3 lackeys up, or 2 lackeys.
2.5, we'll call it.
Sure.
I'll meet you in the middle.
Going into turn 6, which Togwaggle. I mean, I think it's worth it to delay Togwaggle by 1 turn.
I do like having a minion down, though.
Yes.
I definitely like that because you utilize the weapon. And now, honestly, our team is going to have to start adding up damage because with Deal 2 Lackey, Discover a Spell, there's already Deadly Poison and 2 Eviscerates and a Shadow Step.
I remember a game.
Sinister Strike, let's go.
I remember a game at Worlds where I think Bloody Face did something like 24 damage in a turn or more to Hunter Ace just by having 4 Eviscerates in hand and some other manner of ridiculousness. Of course, that was pre-nerfs, but this is still a lot.
Sinister Strike.
Me too.
It's just cheap damage. Look at your hand.
Yeah.
Yes. Good job, Alutimu. I like your style.
It's going to be a while before he gets enough mana to do everything at once, but it's looking like this is the type of game where he's just going to be playing Eviscerates to face.
And the Wanted's going to help because it gets him an extra coin in this game, which means he's just also, interestingly enough, it means that Staz has to continue playing around, say, Leroy Shadow Step because it'll be playable easier.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good one.
Oh, yeah. The interesting thing is that Alutamu chose to use his last lackey as well, which means he's not caring about Tog, even if it comes off the top.
Can Staz? Oh, okay. Honestly, I ask this question every single time, right? And it's probably just wrong. But I just wondered if he could just play Boom there. Yeah, the Dynamatic was great, but you're also facing down 5 damage.
No, I think, like, if any other minion gets on board there, suddenly the Dynamatic is not a full clear, right?
It probably is, though, because it has Rush.
Well, you have to do the order right. If it's a tall minion, then what if some of the things hit the tall minion, and then, yeah.
I really like slamming Boom.
I am learning that very, very thoroughly by having cast with you for 3.5 sets. Boom on 7 is your favorite thing. I think I've agreed about twice out of the 4 times we've seen it.
I'll take 50%. Yeah. It's about my win rate on ladder. So.
Okay. So the Shark... If only he had Life Drinker, then this would be the juice. Yeah, this is the turn, it
Just
looks like.
Go?
Yeah. And he has seen Zilliax, which is a huge deal, so he's free to leave up the mech without worries.
He has a ton of damage. So he puts him down to, what, 14? Yeah. He has Leroy Shadow Step, Leroy with the Weapon Swing too.
And the Sinister Strike. Yeah.
So that's 15. Sorry, coin Sinister Strike as well.
18.
Which Staz won't know about.
Yeah.
Which is the trick. He's got a coin that Staz has to not remember because he'll almost certainly be using Death Tracker. But the Sinister Strike is the scary one.
So Staz, I assume the Harrison looks tempting here because there's 3 attack on it, but that means he's not gaining the 7 armor from Boom. And that means he would be dead. Because he just hero powers in that case, unless he draws exactly shield block from the Harrison. And then there is... oh, sorry, that's just 15 from Alutamu because he won't have the mana to dagger up.
Yeah.
So maybe Staz can actually do this safely. He will do that. And it's not like he's accounting for Sinister Strike either.
Yeah, the worry is what the recovery turns are like after that, right?
Yeah.
Because if you were down to, oh, it's okay, I don't die by 2 health or something, then like that's a little bit scary. I think...
Well, he can still Boom.
I think,
okay,
I think Boom, after seeing double Abyss, I think Boom is more than okay right now. Now Eternium Rover, he got the Blast Shield. Oh no, sorry,
Yeah.
and then she gets the Blast Shield.
I was gonna say, ooh, he got the Blast Shield immediately, which means he won't have it next turn, which is...
Ooh, okay. Shark and Edwin are best friends.
They really are. So what if you sap this Dynomatic? Just because the Edwin's gonna be too big to Dynomatic anyway.
And also the Shark health exists as well, right? Even though it's stealth, it still soaks some hits maybe.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind sapping it. There aren't many targets you want to sap, right?
Yeah, so he just goes Shark, Sap, Coin, Edwin. Next turn he still has the mana to go Leroy Step, Leroy Sinister Strike. So that requires Staz to both deal with the Edwin and stay out of range.
I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I don't actually see a better plan.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on this one because I just don't see anything else you can do that even has a chance of working, never mind actually pulling it off.
And it's turn 9 is a great next to turn 2 with a bunch of spells. Turn 9 is a great time to play Edwin. I think probably the second best against Warrior, just because they cannot devastate it just yet.
And now that is just safe, isn't it? Or it feels safe.
Does this need to get brawled?
If it is, you playing in what? Eternium Rover and the Elic?
Probably.
Just to give you a 50-50.
You just want anything but the
well,
Edwin,
I
right?
say 50-50. 75% chance of winning as far as I'm concerned.
Sure,
'Cause if
yeah.
that Shark lives, you're absolutely happy with that one.
Does the Dynomatic ever get there? If all 5 land on the Edwin, then you have another 3 and then you have Shield Sam. That's
All
not-
I'm thinking is Edwin won a lot of brawls last game. Imagine. Because if Staz loses this brawl after him going for it, he just loses the series and takes another loss in Grandmasters.
Wait, so if you rush in the Rover, you get 6 armor. If Dynomatic deals... Yeah, that's probably not worth the... Oh, yeah, this gets there with the Warpath, right? Does it?
But he gains 6?
Wait. No, it doesn't.
No, it does. Because you do the Warpath
with the one.
stuff to go
Okay,
off,
yeah, that's some quick math.
Okay, that's just a lot better. I actually didn't even look at Warpath.
Me
I'll be
neither.
honest.
Yeah. Good job, Staz.
Yep. And now 24, and Alutimu's got a whole lot of nothing right now.
I think we're going to our first game 3 of the day, it looks like.
I mean, the Myra's is still a card.
Yeah, and so is the Tog. But he needs exactly one of those off the top to have any chance of surviving 2 more turns, because now Staz can just play out 2 mechs or a mech and an Elic.
Alutimu, I think, really wanted to discover a spell there. Just to get something else to do this turn that isn't Leroy Shadowstep. He's going to use the mana now, though. Depending on what he draws next turn, he might not have enough to do this, as well as putting on as much damage as possible. Bear in mind as well, Alutimu still has, although there's the Harrison in hand, of course, still has the double Waggle Pick as well. So he has a lot of damage in the deck. He just didn't quite piece together enough.
Staz has been holding on to the Harrison, I think, for the Waggle Pick.
Right.
But I think now he should be on this game plan of trying to set up 2-turn lethal.
It doesn't matter if your opponent's still got Waggle Pick if they're dead.
Yep.
So
I want to see something like Harrison, Elic, Town Crier. Maybe just fitting in the hero power is better than the Town Crier.
wait, he still has Ziliax, doesn't he?
He's used it, right? Or was it the first game?
So I think maybe he can hold his Harrison for 1 more turn and just play Elic Town Crier. Nice.
Okay, if this
Dynamite
is
it.
the play, it signals to me he probably still has Ziliax.
Right. Because he can get the mech down.
Right. Ooh,
Ooh,
and the
Blast
Blast Shield.
There's a pick.
There's the pick.
Yeah, I do like keeping the Harrison for just 1 more turn there. I think this turn is fine.
Well,
Yeah, that's 14 from hand. That's so crazy.
I mean, assuming the pick sticks.
Wait, does he have a... No, it's too much, never mind. I was wondering whether he Leroy Hero powers.
Do you ever do that now just to?
But that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
The problem is if it's worth it. If they don't have weapon removal, it's of course not worth it, right? Because you gain the damage anyway. But
what you do see right now is he's going to 20, and he's technically got the 20 from hand.
Right.
Should the Waggle pick stick. So if he does the Leroy now, he gives Staz 2 more minions, which means he has 7 health, and the Warrior probably doesn't do that.
Right.
I don't know, maybe he should have gone for it.
And the problem is this Harrison sets up lethal, right?
Yeah. Now Alatimu never gets there, but I just wonder that...
I'd love someone to run the numbers. Oh, he's just not got the time. Yeah. The Waggle pick, number 2. If he'd had the picks a little bit earlier on, especially when he had some of those dead turns, he would have just pushed way more damage. He could have organized that Shadow Step a little bit better, or at least drawn out the Harrison earlier when there were turns to actually deal with it a little bit more. But Staz is fighting back with this Warrior. I do like this Warrior pick for this week, and he's going 1-1 so far. So I think he can get it done. This Rogue, I feel like there's either something missing or it's 2 halves of 2 different decks put together with this Rogue. Because I feel like some of the more aggressive cards will be available, and maybe even going for the raiding party list would have actually just been better overall and a little bit more consistent. Because we have seen Alutimu get some bad hands and kind of whiff it a little bit in terms of their draws.
It is definitely close, and Rogue, it seems like, is still one of the decks that is changing the most from week to week, so it remains to be seen. But good for Staz definitely to have a win on the board there. I think that he is favored overall, so I'm not too surprised to see that. But Game 3 could go anyway, because sometimes the Shark Edwin is just
sometimes it's just too much. We've seen Edwin be quite explosive today so far, but let's see if Staz is going to make the comeback. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We recently revealed Hearthstone's all-new 3-tiered esports program. Masters qualifiers are already well underway, and now we're ready to share details on the highest level of competitive play, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Are you ready to unlock all the secrets of Hearthstone Grandmasters?
Come close and listen.
Here goes. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of Hearthstone esports, composed of 48 of the best pro players in the entire world. Grandmasters is divided into 3 regions: Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, with each represented by 16 pros. These pros are selected by special invitation from Blizzard Entertainment. Criteria for selection include lifetime earnings, Hearthstone competitive points earned, contributions to the Hearthstone community, and more. So who are the lucky Grandmasters? Stay tuned, because in the coming weeks we'll be revealing the inaugural Grandmaster roster region by region. In 2019, there will be 2 seasons of Hearthstone Grandmasters. Each season will feature 8 weeks of world-class competition played out in online tournaments. Grandmasters pros will earn both prize money and performance-based bonuses during the season, and they will automatically qualify to compete at all Hearthstone Masters Tour events, guaranteeing these marquee tournaments feature the fiercest competitors possible. And the best part? You won't miss a second of the action, because matches will be broadcast live on twitch.tv/playhearthstone. 5 matches will be broadcast every Friday, with 5 more every Saturday. And if that isn't enough Hearthstone action, there will be 6 matches broadcast every Sunday.
More souls!
Mark your calendars, because the first season begins on May 17th. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of professional Hearthstone, where the world's best pros battle it out every weekend online. Think you've got what it takes to reach the top? The path to Grandmasters starts with our Masters qualifier tournaments, so sign up today.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure.
1-1 of the day, Alutimu and Staz. It's all coming down to this game. Alutimu currently number 2 in his division, where Staz is sitting at the bottom as well. So he's matched in terms of game wins as well, so he's not just literally at the bottom, he's sharing now with a few players, but still this win would mean a lot to him in terms of progressing through this league. So yeah, both players are playing on their primary deck again. Like we said, seems to be no room for the tech for these two matchups, for this matchup specifically. So you think Staz has got this?
Yeah, I think that in general, Staz has had good archetype brings throughout Grandmasters. I did watch him very closely throughout the first 2 weeks, as we are teammates now. It's just that maybe the way the lists were built weren't too refined yet, but I do think that this warrior is, as you mentioned, his best bring so far, and it definitely hit a good matchup here. And it's showing why it's been good. So he does have the Dinomatic for this game. I'm not sure if he wants to keep anything else here.
I don't think the Clockwork's too bad to keep, to be honest. I wouldn't be too upset with that. I think the Brawl can go away because you have so many other removals, but I think I almost always keep Clockwork Goblin in every opening hand in any matchup, because I just like playing stuff on curve.
It is generally a good plan. And that's how Bomb Warrior gets there in very many matchups. This one in particular, I'm not too sure, but it does certainly seem better than just playing hero power or shield passing, shield block, shield passing. I'm gonna call it that. Yeah.
Shield pass. That's it's a new card. It's just delayed armor gain. But for me, I always think as well. Maybe I oversimplify the mulligan a little bit. If I think like, what card would I actually want instead of
this guy's toast.
Like what I'm thinking about keeping, right? So for example, the Goblin, and it's like none. Really, none that's worth the throw anyway, right? Just a 3-3 on 3 is so solid, and it is going to be able to contend this other 3-3 on 3, which is an SI7 agent from Alutimu.
I feel like the 1-drops are a possible argument against that, but there are only 2 in status deck.
Right,
he's
that's
got
the
Rover and the Town Crier, so I can definitely see
that. If it was a Zoo deck, sign me up for the mulligan, but there were 2 1-drops, like, it would scare me way too much.
Sure. So Alutimu can go for this Edwin turn, even shadow stepping the SI, I think is pretty good here.
Yeah, why not? Clean kill saves yourself a little bit of health. I don't think it's worth pushing the 2, is it? Using the dagger? I don't think so. I think it's worth 3 damage.
Yeah, I agree, especially since it looks like his next turn is Life Drinker and he won't have the mana to re-dagger. Close though.
Alutimu is not sure.
This guy's
I definitely like this. It's just playing to what his hand looks like right now.
And also as well, in Bomb Warrior, sometimes it goes fast, and 3 damage that you really didn't need to take can make a difference in getting to one of those multiples of 5.
This is already super awkward for Staz. I wonder if he has to go as drastic as using the Militia Commander this turn into the Edwin, so next turn he has triple Warpath with the coin. It feels awful.
I'm pretty sure Staz is going to be having nightmares of Van Cleef tonight. Yeah. Because Van Cleef has been a pain for him in every single game, right?
He could go the other way around and try going for Dinomatic, and if you hit 3 on the Edwin, then you can Militia Commander, but that happens like less than 50% of the time, right?
Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it?
No, it's around 50, right? Because upwards of 3 is also just good for you.
Sure.
So,
maybe Coin Dynamatic's just the best he's got.
I just feel like the Militia Commander into the Warpath guaranteed clears versus the over 2 turns, I mean. Okay, going for it this way.
Next turn he can Militia Commander or, depending on the board state, Dynamatic and swing the weapon again. But this is a 16 hit.
Yeah, and that means he's committing to taking that damage. As you mentioned, it's 16 instead of the...
I don't
It's close.
even know if there's something you could draw that negates that.
Well, Shield Slam?
Yeah, it would need exactly Shield Slam, so Shield Block, Armor Up Shield Slam, right?
It is pretty bad.
Ooh, yeah, and that's just a big ask, isn't it? Oh, this is going to be another 8. And bear in mind as well, because of the sheer amount of backswing damage from this Van Cleef, the armor from Weapons Project has long gone. So even Alutimu pushing forward with his own Weapons Project weapon is significant.
So many choices.
Edwin, man. Crazy card. I'm surprised they hit so many rogue cards with the nerf, but not Edwin. Although granted, like nerfing preparation is indirectly nerfing Edwin,
right. But it nerfs the amount of times that Edwin does silly things, right? Oh, there's 10.
Ooh, coin hero power.
It may as well.
Oh.
That coin's not going to do much if you die next turn. What are you looking for otherwise?
Boom off the top, I think, and then coin into the right boom, not the one in hand. But oh my goodness, Alafuma's just drawing the juice. Can keep going. Next turn, curves into an active Togwaggle. I don't see a way Stas gets out of this.
I think I like the 2 minions. I think I like the Faceless Lackey. Because it puts the most stuff on the board, and if you've seen one Warpath, and if your opponent brawls, they can't armor up. Maybe this evolve actually adds more damage overall, but I don't know. I think the Faceless would have been fine.
I think it might hedge around Brawl a little bit better.
But do you care that much if they brawl?
No, I feel like you're just winning this game.
Well, if they brawl, they don't armor, right? Which is the big deal.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
It's got charge.
Fine, Alatimu. If you want to do that, then whatever. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. The Witchy Lackey was clearly the correct line. And this just...
Yeah, obviously it would not have mattered whether or not that thing had charge. It maybe matters in the short term because Stas can just gain 7 this turn if he wants. But I think overall, seeing this Togwaggle in hand, I don't see a way.
Yeah, this is scary. To be honest, even the Ethereal Lackey for the spell. There are a lot of damaging rogue spells. We saw last week Head Crack get some work done, which was awesome. And Stas, the worry is he can technically survive, but what does that actually do? He still needs to get some certain cards to be able to actually even win this game.
It's very funny to me that Life Drinker off the top will have charge.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's Beast, yeah.
He probably plays this to try and grab the Ziliax.
And just hope for the best, right?
Yeah.
That's all he can do.
That has charge.
That's 8 damage.
That's so funny.
So he needs to find 3 from this Spell Discover and this Rat.
Is it better than just playing Tog?
I think you can always play the Lackey, so play it.
Which one?
Sorry, the Ethereal Lackey. Because you can discover this. You can discover so much damage, right?
Yeah.
That you always play that anyway because you've got the mana.
Right.
And then reevaluate after you've seen the spells. That's Head Crack. He's just the best card. We're going to see main deck Head Crack soon.
4, 5,
Head Crack.
6, 7.
So much damage.
This is 1 off, I think.
Yeah, he needed 3.
Yeah, but the Cable Rat can get you a damage Lackey.
Right. I think with Head Crack you go for it.
Sure.
Because you can still hold the Faceless Lackey for next turn. And it's not like playing Tog is always lethal next turn. I was going to go... Oh, okay.
We are picking at... What's the term? Like... basically, we're trying to decide what between the 99% and the 99.9% play.
Either way, Head Crack, pretty solid pickup. Also, slightly unfortunate for Stas that there's no mech that you can play, to attach the Ziliax to increase the damage, therefore increase the healing. But again, this is just Ziliax hero power, but what does that even do?
Nothing. There's just no way out. He can't even fit in the hero power shield slam with the Ziliax.
Yeah, he's just... This was just too much, too fast.
Yeah, the Edwin, I mean, that's just sometimes how the deck works, right?
Right.
Rogue, it's built that way to take advantage of a card like Edwin, and you are paying the price of some games. It ends up like game 2 of the series where Alatamu just had a bunch of backstabs and shadow steps and not much to do. But when it comes together, oh boy, it really does come together. Although I would like to go back and see how the game would have turned out if
there was the guaranteed 2-turn.
Yeah, although, I mean, I feel like he still would have been in an awful spot because obviously that's conceding all those turns and still taking 11 in the process because there was an Edwin and the SI.
Oh, well, speaking of SI, there's SI with a head crack and enough mana to get it done. Regardless of this app, there were many, many ways this game was going to go down, and Alutimu takes the series with this rogue, and I feel like maybe not the most optimized rogue list I've ever seen, only a week after nerfs, of course, but that puts Alutimu on the 4 wins. So now this top 3 of Flurry, Alutimu, and Tom is very, very tight indeed. All 3 players on 4 wins right now. So it means that the rest of the matches this weekend are going to decide who's going to end up on top this week.
Yeah, what a great story if one of these players who was just kind of hovering around and trying to get past Flurry actually gets there. And alternatively, we could just see a 3-way tie at 5-1 if all of them win again.
Exactly, yeah, there is a chance. So there's plenty more matches to come up this whole weekend. We are going Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, as I'm sure you guys will know is the usual by now. But for now, we're going to take a quick break before we've got the last match of the day. Don't go anywhere.
We recently revealed Hearthstone's all-new 3-tiered esports program. Masters qualifiers are already well underway, and now we're ready to share details on the highest level of competitive play, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Are you ready to unlock all the secrets of Hearthstone Grandmasters?
Come close and listen.
Here goes. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of Hearthstone esports, composed of 48 of the best pro players in the entire world. Grandmasters is divided into 3 regions: Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, with each represented by 16 pros. These pros are selected by special invitation from Blizzard Entertainment. Criteria for selection include lifetime earnings, Hearthstone competitive points earned, contributions to the Hearthstone community, and more. So who are the lucky Grandmasters? Stay tuned, because in the coming weeks we'll be revealing the inaugural Grandmaster roster region by region. In 2019, there will be 2 seasons of Hearthstone Grandmasters. Each season will feature 8 weeks of world-class competition played out in online tournaments. Grandmasters pros will earn both prize money and performance-based bonuses during the season, and they will automatically qualify to compete at all Hearthstone Masters Tour events, guaranteeing these marquee tournaments feature the fiercest competitors possible. And the best part? You won't miss a second of the action, because matches will be broadcast live on twitch.tv/playhearthstone. 5 matches will be broadcast every Friday, with 5 more every Saturday. And if that isn't enough Hearthstone action, there will be 6 matches broadcast every Sunday.
More souls!
Mark your calendars, because the first season begins on May 17th. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of professional Hearthstone, where the world's best pros battle it out every weekend online. Think you've got what it takes to reach the top? The path to Grandmasters starts with our Masters qualifier tournaments, so sign up today.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure.
We've got the last match of the day here. It's going to be Tyler versus Samuel Sao, and it's going to be a good old-fashioned Hunter mirror. Both players bringing mid-range Hunter, I guess taking nods from players such as Blitzchung last weekend, but also players such as Bunny Hopper, who hit multiple rank 1 legends on ladder this past week with mid-range Hunter. Let's check out the list though as we get into it. I believe both lists are at least fairly similar in most aspects. So Tyler and Samuel Sao are going to be on the mid-range, and we're going to check out Tyler's first. But to me, Gia, that looks fairly standard, except for maybe one card. Is that Sneaky Rat Trap?
Yeah. I think the flex spots are definitely, whether you include 1 or 2 tracking, any secrets at all, the Headhunter's Hatchet. What is interesting to me is that Tyler and Rivius sometimes prep together, and I think this week they definitely did, because they're both on the Hunter and their lists are quite similar, although we did see Rivius last week bring something different to Tyler and different to the majority of the field. But yeah, I mean, good old Hunter mirrors. This has been the story of Hearthstone as of pre this expansion, although the matchup is so different now that you don't have to rely on Dustak or Rexar, and now that things like Crackling Razor Maw that completely snowball the game out of control are no longer in contention, sometimes the game goes much longer.
Yeah, it's definitely much more leeway for each player to swing every turn. It almost feels like a bit of a rogue mirror sometimes with some of the tempo turns you can actually make, and keeping hold of tempo is super important. One extra small note there for Tyler's list is he's running double deadly shot, which I don't think is optimal for the mirror, but it is something we need to bear in mind when it comes to the Zul'jin turns, that if Tyler's played both, then that turn becomes even more powerful if there's something on the other side of the board. And also as well, Headhunter's Hatchet, again, not I would say optimal for the mirror, but is insane because Hunter cannot afford to run weapon removal because there's no beast-based weapon removal in the game right now. And being able to just equip a 2-mana 2/3 weapon most of the time against a deck where most of their minions are quite low on health is insane. It's just 2 mana, kill 3 things, and it is super, super powerful. Let's check out Samuel Sau's list though and see what the difference is there, because there are some. I feel like Samuel Sau's playing a much more standard variation with the double tracking, but also most importantly for me, no weapons whatsoever, and also the double deadly shot, but the no Headhunter's Hatchet just almost autopilots me to say I feel like Tyler's favored in this specific mirror.
Well, looking at Tyler's list, I think the Rat Trap and the Hatchet inclusion is for the Mage matchup. The Hatchet is surprisingly good against Mage because it gets past the mirror images. Sometimes it kills apprentices when you otherwise wouldn't be able to. And the Rat Trap can punish them for the extreme Mana Cyclone turns. And it's also decent against Rogue, although I don't think if you expect Rogue, lots of Rogue, you should be bringing Hunter at all. Whereas Samuel Sau's list, I feel like, as you mentioned, it is just the standard list. It's not tacked towards any particular matchup.
Feels like a ladder
think.
list, right?
Yeah.
This is as close in Specialist as you're probably going to see to a ladder deck that's just straight up. The one thing I would say though is the Rat Trap, although may not be directly there for the Hunter matchup, because Samuel Sau knows is 100% of the time Rat Trap outside of a Shimmerfly, which he'll know if the secret's been created from Shimmerfly anyway. It means that Tyler puts Samuel Sau, if that's played, on you play 2 cards a turn maximum. If you play 3, you have to be able to deal with this rat, which is a 6/6, and most decks can't proc the trap and kill it in the same turn. That's a big ask. So it's weird in an open deck format where you run one secret of just, well, okay, now you just play 2 cards a turn for the rest of the game, which for Hunter is very difficult. So I honestly feel these techs have worked out very, very well for Tyler.
Yeah, it could very much be the case. I am very just interested to see how they approach the mirror, because a lot of people say it goes differently, and I think that almost every single game something different happens. Like sometimes you go to the super late game when both people can land their skill hide frenzies and then just continuously heal, and then suddenly you cannot just be, you know, chucking your kill commands face preemptively and hoping you get there towards the end. And then there's other games where we saw, like with Rivius versus Frosty, when he just did the Tundra Rhino and have 30 from hand. You can do a condensed version of that in the mirror where you just kill them from 22 or something because you have Dire Frenzy
stacking up as well for a lot of the turns.
So a lot of the time also there's just one person gets to stick a hyena and the other doesn't. And
I think the matchup, I do agree, it can go tons of different ways. I was actually speaking to Sottle this morning about the matchup. I was just interested to hear his thoughts because I knew he'd been playing Hunter. And he was saying he even keeps Zul'jin in the opening hand. And he was like, I'm not 100% sure whether that's right, but my win rate is good. But my win rate might be good because if I keep it, I play the game in a style that is me knowing I have Zul'jin on 10 ready to go. So it's very interesting that, again, I probably wouldn't keep Zul'jin in the mirror personally. I'm definitely going to try it out more going forward. But yeah, this deck is way more in depth than, say, mid-range hunters of old used to be, just because of the amount of different options you have, especially with Battle Frenzy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also on the not keeping Zul'jin camp, but I think I've seen Sandglass stream the mirror and keep it.
Right.
And so I definitely trust him because he has been like playing mid-range hunter even before it was like
before it was cool.
Even before the rogue nerfs, when it was like held down specifically by Rogue, and now it seems like the king of ladder decks because it just beats on Mage and deals, does pretty well against Bomb Warrior too.
So we see now there's the clash of the 1-drops with the Lynx going up against the Shimmerfly. In general, it's Tyler's got the better end of the stick with the Shimmerfly purely because, although he is a turn behind, it means that the Shimmerfly doesn't have Rush, and you don't actually need it to have Rush yet. So it means that you've gained the spell a little bit earlier, and also he saves a Spring Paw, which means he has more flexibility later on, just because he's 1 Spring Paw up.
Yeah. In terms of hand quality, Tyler's definitely got the upper hand, being able to go double Animal Companion, and that's going to be rough for Samuel Tsao to deal with. And so I like that he's taking this very proactive stance and telling Tyler, well, if you go for the Animal Companions, it's going to be much easier for me to answer them.
Both players playing double Unleash as well, just so everyone is aware. Sometimes that goes to 1, depending on what you want the deck to do. But right as of like now, it is almost certain that it's going to be double all the time. Ooh, okay.
Despite the board directly trading with Huffer, I think Huffer was the best outcome there for Tyler, so that Samuel Tsao could not simply just deadly shot and be done with the turn and then push 2 damage. Now he's sat with a decision. Do you deadly shot for very little value and stick the Spring Paw for a potential Dire Frenzy stick, or do you just take it super slow? And I like the deadly shot because his hand looks like nothing if you don't land the Dire Frenzy.
I feel like you almost have to deadly shot, right? There are arguments for not doing it. It's called not deadly shotting a 1 health minion that you can just kill. But you need to, I agree, you need to do something next turn, and right now it's extremely likely that you can land this Dire Frenzy because Tyler maybe would have played Spring Paws by now. You wouldn't have used up the coin and used Spring Paw instead to clear the board. And also you've not seen Hatchet yet either, which again would have been a good pull. So I think you have to deadly shot. Samuel Tsao is running 2 as well. So, you know, it's not as if you're out of deadly shots. And I also believe it's not often you get a good deadly shot in this matchup anyway.
Right. And I think having seen the coin Animal Companion from Tyler, I think Samuel Tsao can either put Tyler on having Master's Call for this turn or the second companion, in which case the Leok is a good outcome for you because you can Frenzy and then value trade it. Even Misha, you're not too sad. It's really just another Huffer where you're like, oh no.
And now the reads become really funny, don't they? Because if my opponent just deadly shotted a 1 health Huffer, then do I kill the 1/1 to stop a Dire Frenzy the following turn? Because that is not a sacrifice you would normally make.
Well, I think Tyler now has the freedom to go for the Vicious Scale Hide onto this. What is the pick here?
It's really tough. I mean, I think I personally like the Rat Trap, but I wouldn't be too upset with a Headhunter's Hatchet, because I feel like Headhunter's Hatchet is the most consistent pick in terms of results. You probably like Hyena, don't you?
I mean, I'm looking at it and trying to see, like, his hand has no other minions than the Scale Hide. Well, I guess Animal Companion counts. But I feel like the Bestial Wrath and the Deadly Shot are removal. Bestial Wrath, of course, being a bit more conditional. That I did want to see something proactive. It looks like the Rat Trap is just not going to go off for a very long time unless you put Samuel Tsao on having exactly Master's Call.
Tyler's okay with that though, right? That's my, like, if you just tell you, imagine if there's a card that just makes your opponent not be able to play more than 2 cards a turn. Like, that's just good. And if they're not doing that anyway, it means the hand's super slow and not very flexible.
Yeah, I think it was definitely close there. I could not bring myself to choose one over the other. I think
on 3 different days, I would have picked 3 different cards in that Discover, to be honest.
On Fridays, we go for Rat Trap, apparently. Samuel Tsao, this is just such a sad hand. Oh, another Deadly Shot. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong. He probably had to, but it just feels so awful.
Tyler can probably get some of those cards in Samuel Tsao's, or at least narrow them down to, say, a pool of 5, maybe. And very quickly he'll work out that it's not Unleash the Beast unless he draws one, of course.
Yeah, Zul'jin, Unleash the Beast, Frenzy
exactly,
is the pool. I think Frenzy is very likely, especially since Samuel Tsao prioritized keeping a 1/1 on board, even though there was a 4/1 Huffer. And Samuel Tsao now knows that that is exactly Rat Trap. And because he's seen Tyler use the coin, he's not scared of the response of Coin Unleash the Beast, which is the premier argument for not playing Rhino in 5. But unfortunately for him, Tyler does have an answer.
Samuel Tsao's now going to reveal that the other 2 cards are even more likely to be Dire Frenzy, because Tyler will know that this Unleash the Beast came the turn after. But it does mean that Samuel at least has something to do. He can make a 5-5, but the problem is Tyler gets to respond instantly.
Well, generally, what happens a lot in these mid games is one player goes Unleash the Beast, the other responds with their own, and then it happens for the next turns. They're just stalling till they get to the Zul'jin, right? And the player that plays them first has the initiative, because then you know your opponent's best response is exactly their own Unleash the Beast. And then what ends up happening, though, is that when one player pulls the trigger on Zul'jin, the other player's Zul'jin is so much better because you get value on your deadly shots, you get value on the Unleash the Beast rushes. Whereas if you play Zul'jin in the mirror onto an empty board, your mark shots don't land on anything, your deadly shots don't get value on anything.
And those situations is completely true, but it can also get quite difficult, right? Because it's not like... Look at this hand, and imagine if we fast forward and this hand's turn 10. Tyler, I don't think, shouldn't not play Zul'jin because if Samuel Zhao has it, it's a better Zul'jin. Or if Tyler never plays Zul'jin because he waits for Samuel Zhao and Samuel Zhao doesn't even have it, then that's a huge problem because he could just miss out on a win itself. It's similar with this, like the turn 6 Unleash the Beast is something you have to always be aware of, especially when you've seen someone play as slow as Sam. But if you can set up into it, you can end up ahead because you don't always need to Unleash the Beast back.
So that was a very interesting turn from Tyler. I thought he was considering between Bestial Wrath and the Kill Command. Bestial Wrath is the one that gives it immune, right? So he could have...
Yeah, but it doesn't give it rush.
Right.
So it would have just been...
So
it's plus 2 attack and immune. So it would have been Kill Command or the 1-1.
Right.
He was just looking at the card, I think, just to remind himself what it did.
Right.
It's not half Goblin Prank and half Bestial Wrath.
And half the new one. The +1/+1 rush one, right? Or +2 attack.
Oh, the plus... Wait, no.
Wait, I don't know
+1 +1 and the minion fights another minion, right? That one?
Oh, yeah. It's basically rush in this instance.
Yes, if there's only one minion on the board, yes.
Okay. But yeah, he settled on this play, which I think looks good into expecting Samuel Zhao to play exactly the second Unleash the Beast, and you know that's in hand, so I don't hate it. Because what would have happened if he kill commanded is that the Unleash the Beast then value trades the Misha, and then you're like, do I have to scale hide into a Misha? That feels awful. So I understand the play, but he will get a little bit punished now because Samuel Zhao lands this value trade and could probably take another one if he wanted to, but the face looks juicy, but this both protects the scale hide and also just doesn't leave a Timberwolf on board, which is definitely one of the scariest minions to leave just chilling.
And I think as well, most importantly, the face damage combined with the hand doesn't add up to much. Whereas if the hand was more aggressive, like if someone's our double kill command, I would have been like, nope, ship that 5 to face. But his hand is more of a value board-centric hand. So although Hunter excels at being aggressive, and I think in the mirror especially, crossing that line of no return where you're so far ahead in health that you can play more aggressive, right now, Samuel Zhao just needs to win the board. Or continue to win the board, should I say.
It's a pretty funny game when they both don't have Master's Call. Yeah.
It is, yeah. You definitely want to be the one with the twin spells.
Tyler does have the Zul'jin just waiting, though, so...
I think I like Bestial Wrath here.
What? Just to give it 1 more health, yeah?
Just to, because it makes you, it makes you immune, so your scale hide doesn't die.
Right. I'm getting all of these buff cards confused, but yes, you are a Hunter expert, Raven.
Yeah.
For years and years now.
Probably going to hold on to it because he knows there's an Unleash the Beast in hand, which means that that buff isn't permanent, so the scale hide goes back to a 1/3, which means that the Unleash the Beast just kills it without any effort. And with the 100% knowledge Samuel Zhao has of the secret, there's no punish for Unleash the Beast this turn.
Pretty unlucky for Tyler that both Master's Call are in the bottom 16. It looks like he's drawn so much more, but that's just... Oh, okay.
Liar.
It was bottom 16.
Well, it's not unlucky, though. It's in hand now, so it's fine.
Sure.
This is huge, though, because this is leading towards Zul'jin, and suddenly, unless Samuel Zhao picks up a Master's Call of his own, or maybe a Zul'jin now with triple deadly shot, this is going to snowball out of control very, very quickly right now. That Master's Call was clutch.
If you're Tyler, though, you could be thinking the far left card from Samuel Zhao's Zul'jin, because that's been in hand since pretty much the beginning of the game. I don't know if it's worth not ripping your own Zul'jin because you're scared of the counter Zul'jin, though. Guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I guess.
I kind of want the Cybertech chip just because his hand has no value.
But you can't. Where's your minions to put chip on?
The Unleash the Hound is often 2 minions or so.
What if it isn't? No, it's the scary bit. I do see your point though. MD is just some damage, and the damage doesn't matter now. Both players are relatively high, especially with those scale heights.
You can guarantee getting 1 Hound by proccing the Rat Trap. 200 IQ, Raven.
How do you proc the Rat Trap?
Well, you draw Spring Paw off the top, obviously.
Okay, so this plan is getting quite in depth, and I think too in depth.
And then you can kill it with the Deadly Shot.
So then you don't even proc Cybertech chip, because none of the minions die. So Samuel Sao did go for the MD in the end.
Yeah. Those were just awful spells in this situation.
Oh, Tyler got the second Master
Oh my goodness, that is huge.
Oh, he got it from the Shimmerfly, so clutch. And then Unleash the Beast. This Zul'jin just became savage.
And Samuel Cao, bear in mind he's got Scale Hides in the deck, which he does not want to draw. He's basically on either Zul'jin or Master's Call. Every other draw is kind of trash. Maybe Unleash the Beast is okay.
Yeah, this is bad, isn't it? I'm not even sure what's... I mean, the Deadly Shot seems fine.
I think, yeah.
But
it seems better than going Unleash and Kill Command. You don't want to leave the 5/5 on board.
Would you... It's tough, isn't it? I was excuse me, sorry. I was wondering whether you'd actually Unleash Dire Frenzy and just go face and try and do something. Just because it's bad, but just because you've drawn Kill Command. But Deadly Shot seems a little bit more stable. I'm just trying to think of what are these extreme circumstances you can get to where you actually like randomly lethal Tyler. Because right now, Samuel Cao's losing.
For sure.
Very heavily.
But the second he gets Zul'jin, he could be in the driver's seat again because it answers the first Zul'jin very well. And we see Tyler holding off on Zul'jin for 2 reasons. One, his hand is very full, so the Master's Call would be essentially wasted there. He is testing for Rat Trap right now, I think. Sees that that is not it. See, Cybertech chip on this board.
Okay. I'm not quite sold yet, but
oriented
okay. Yep.
as
Yeah, if
always.
these things exactly happen, this card is good. I will never argue that one with you.
I mean, it was pretty likely that Tyler plays something, right? So even 2 mechs here, I feel like is better, or 1 mech in hand is better than a misdirection on board, I feel.
I actually think I like pushing the damage there.
I mean, then you get very punished by like the Rhino scavenging, and you've seen double Master's Call.
I guess. I'm just trying to think of an extreme way Samuel Cao wins without just saying draw Zul'jin. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the time, yes, sometimes you do need 1 card in the deck to win, but you should still be looking for other ways to generate or at least make a win more likely.
No,
Samuel Cao's also running double tracking.
I totally agree. I mean, this is just such a desperate situation, but I feel like the 1 in 19 to draw Zul'jin is more likely than that line getting you there, but of course it's a very tough call.
I'd love to see Rhino from Tyler.
He's scared of counter Zul'jin, but obviously having seen both Deadly Shot, the Rhino is likely to stick. He's also seen 1 Unleash the Beast, and then if Samuel Cao is forced to respond to his Rhino by using Zul'jin, then Tyler's Zul'jin gets really good.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
Like, if he has to deal with a Rhino and a Hyena, 1, he pushes damage, which is good. 2, if Samuel Cao's dealing with that, it's unlikely he does anything else. And then you just go again, and again, and again, because Hunter cannot play that reactive for that long. Tyler's taking it super slow.
Super. Well, Samuel Cao can continue the stalling. Scale Hide Unleash, still not proccing the Rat Trap.
He could just Scale Hide Die Frenzy, depending.
Has he put this secret on exactly misdirection? Oh, it's either that or explosive, right? Because he has attacked into a minion.
Yeah.
So he knows it's not snipe either or freezing. So maybe the threat of misdirection is what prevented him from going right.
I guess.
Also, there is that argument of just holding the Rhino in hand with the Timberwolf. But I was wondering if you just go for another Master's Call in that instance. Oh wait, he's got nothing left in deck.
No.
Is it just both Dire Frenzy
I think
bottom
there's
6?
2 Dire Frenzies.
Right, okay. So he definitely wants to save the last Master's Call or the Master's Calls from Zul'jin.
Yeah, he wants to. You almost always want to Dire Frenzy before Zul'jin, unless the Dire Frenzy is putting on so much pressure it just gets you lethal anyway, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely want to Dire Frenzy before Zul'jin, because it adds so much extra value to the deck.
Right.
Now, Tyler has just a completely reasonable Unleash the Hounds here as well.
Hound.
Yeah, Unleash the Hound, the doggo. Mainly because you just want it in the Zul'jin pool, I find a lot of the time. It makes the counter Zul'jin good as well, especially... Wait.
Probably...
I'm being... Oh no, was Tyler... Tyler was on coin, right?
Yes.
So Unleash is really good with Zul'jin because he can coin out Timberwolf. Or Zul'jin coins and he Timberwolves, should I say.
I think...
Beast Rat number 2.
The second...
Imagine the trade-ups.
Crazy. The second Tyler draws Dire Frenzy, the game is super over because he just puts it on the Timberwolf and then Rhino with the Timberwolf gets there.
And the most...
That's something. So now this is the dance of the Zul'jins.
Can Samuel Sao even wait? I don't think so. He knows this 5/5 dies because he's got about 1,000 deadly shots in the pool.
Yes.
And also, most importantly, he has played a Dire Frenzy.
What's annoying is that he hasn't played a Master's Call though, so this is not actually drawing him cards from his deck. I don't think he's played a Tracking either. It will get him the Unleash the Beasts though.
Right. And I think he needs to do something. With Tyler's deck so thin, he knows roughly what Tyler's plan is right now.
Yeah.
And because Samuel Zhao's not seen a Dire Frenzy, and Tyler's seemingly waiting for it, maybe he should just go.
This just seems like a catch-22 because, like, with so few cards left in deck, you can definitely put Tyler on having Zul'jin. And once your Zul'jin gets answered, I think that's just GG because then if you get the Master's Calls after that, it's way too slow. On the other hand, the longer he waits, the more time he gives Tyler to assemble the Timberwolf, Dire Frenzy, and Tundra Rhino OTK.
See, my issue with the Dire Frenzy is more cards are being shuffled in when you don't have Master's Call.
Yeah, it's
so
just
should you have
hard.
just may as well have played Zul'jin?
And just like use Kill Command there maybe. I mean, I feel like the stalling for one more turn can work out because Tyler doesn't have the combo yet.
It's just weird though because you're stalling for one more turn, but you put 3 more cards in your deck. So you've actually made it worse.
I was
at least
thinking,
to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe just scale hide and Kill Command there and not just...
Oh, maybe, yeah. At least Kill Command's in the pool as well then.
Yeah. It's crazy. He hasn't even played things like Mark Shot, right? So not even that is generating spells, which could possibly be generation for card draw. So honestly, I don't think I've seen a worse mid-hunter draw.
I think it was also bad because it's the mirror.
Oh yeah,
and the pressure's very even. It meant Samuel Zhao had to make certain plays. Whereas if he was against certain other decks, he maybe could have played a little bit slower, or even maybe played a little bit more all in.
Is there a world he ever gets there by just holding the Kill Command, drawing the other one, and then maybe this misdirection Tyler messes up a bit and takes 5 to the face?
I mean, there's definitely a way that happens.
But then Tyler's just got the Zul'jin. Oh my god, finally! A Master's Call. I think we're doing that. You want that in the pool for the Zul'jin.
Right. Even if, that said, draw 3 cards with Zul'jin later, you'd still play this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Problem is, if he procs the Kill Command, he also procs the Rat Trap, which will be immediately respawned by Zul'jin. Should Tyler play it next turn. Although, if Tyler Zul'jin's first, I think you're pretty happy because then your Zul'jin is great. So I think...
I don't want to proc a Rat Trap here. It's so much damage. And it might be too much damage to recover from. So even if you have the second Zul'jin, the Zul'jin's going to Die Frenzy stuff and draw cards. So whoever Zul'jin's first also gets to play their Master's Called cards first, which means there are benefits and negatives to both, of course. But I think you can't afford to just take 6 here.
Yeah, I can definitely see this. The 6 wouldn't be guaranteed because of the misdirection.
Right.
But I think that just making the 5 maybe go to Tyler's face because of the misdirection accomplishes the same thing, and you keep the Kill Command in hand.
Right,
so
okay. Because you could get, or at least Tyler could guarantee it with Unleash the Hounds though, right?
Right.
So you could unleash, put one in and see what happens, and then push.
Right.
And here we
So
go.
I'm curious about just playing the Springfall there. Yeah, so now Tyler's created
Right.
this situation where
He
Samuel
kills
Tsao-
someone
Yeah.
very quickly.
Samuel Tsao has the Zul'jin or he's dead, and then Tyler responds with his own Zul'jin, and I think that's checkmate with the amount of deadly shots and other things that have been played.
I mean, Tyler might not even need Zul'jin right now.
Well, I do think Samuel Tsao's forced on his Zul'jin, so Tyler will need his own Zul'jin to deal with all the 5/5s.
Does he? Okay, one dies. Yeah. Okay.
Is there a way to
I was wondering
stall
whether
Zul'jin one more
I was
turn?
wondering whether like unleash Timberwolf, with the Rhino was enough.
Maybe.
Because if we're imagining the board's what more or less full,
Yeah.
because you don't need it to be full because you're playing the Rhino and the Wolves anyway. So you only need it to be what 4 cards, 4 minions on board to create the dogs.
Samuel Tsao will be at 31, so I think it's unlikely that the Unleash gets there, but I mean still, just the responding Zul'jin is absolutely insane.
Beast of Rats for days in this game.
Yeah. I will learn what that card does. Bestial Wrath, Goblin Prank, and the new one. I don't know the name
I
of
want
it.
to say, is it Beast Within?
Yes, I think
Plus
so.
one,
That
plus
sounds
one, plus
correct.
one, your minion attacks a random
Yes,
enemy
okay.
minion.
It's all these buff cards that never get hard included in any Hunter deck ever.
That's why playing World of
Maybe
Warcraft
the-
is useful.
Maybe the board doesn't get that full. Did he play?
But you
he
only
didn't
need
play
4.
any
You only need
comps.
4 minions, though, right?
Yeah, but this doesn't get there. It's just second Zul'jin. I mean,
Here comes a bigger.
so 2 deadlies. Tyler has 2 deadly, right? In the
Has he played both? I know he's played 1.
even if both haven't been played, the 5/5s should be able to clear off the
Oh,
responding thing.
he tracking away one of the wolves.
Oh, okay.
That's the problem with his bottom 2. One of the cards being Dire Frenzy. This ordering isn't perfect, but
Just watching a show now. I think it's just very important to think about your Zul'jin turn before it happens, because you want a Zul'jin immediately and then respond after the animations finish, which
Right.
doesn't always get to happen.
no.
But as long as he clears all these minions, he is
Withdraws one of the
totally
buff
fine.
Leox. Misha's definitely not bad. Oh, these Beasts for Wrath is actually pretty sick.
Both players just played about 80 mana worth of things.
Yeah. And now Samuel Sal's like, can I replay Zul'jin, please?
He's not even got an Unleash the Hounds to respond to this.
I mean, he's just dead, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Especially when you know that Tyler's got either Timberwolves or Leox next turn, because that's what was Dire Frenzied in,
Yeah.
and then tracking.
I think this matchup played out one of the 3 different ways I most often see the mirror. Outside of the card draw mishaps, I would say Samuel Tsao got very, very unfortunate to a degree I have not seen so far. But just in general, the principle of like holding out to the late game and then forcing your opponent into a situation where they need to Zul'jin first, and then your Zul'jin is so much
Right.
better. And that's one way you win the mirror. The other 2 ways, perhaps we get to see that in game 2 and maybe a game 3.
Maybe.
And this can just be the crash course in mid-range Hunter.
Big question for me is how the tech works, because just while Samuel Sal's trying to work out what he can do with his many, many cards, Tyler's secondary deck has a second Hatchet, a Henchclan Hogsteed, a Revenge of the Wild, and most importantly maybe 2 Witchwood Grizzlies.
Yeah, I don't think this is very good for the mirror at all. This is meant for things like Token Druid, perhaps. Maybe Zoo, Witchwood Grizzly, and Token Druid are
Maybe it's a
against those.
decent mirror card though, mirror deck though. You don't lose that much.
I think cutting the Deadly Shots and the Rhino and an Unleash the Beast are all pretty bad in the mirror when it goes in this kind of game to the long game. But there are instances where just going aggro early on gets you there. But Hunter just has so much value these days
Yeah,
that
it's nuts,
when
isn't it?
you run, it's essentially a control mirror, and you run less value and you don't win that way sometimes.
It's just funny because it used to be the class that never played like that. It was
Yeah.
always, okay,
For
by
sure.
turn 7 I'm out of cards. I hope I did enough damage.
This has to be uber lethal, right? But I guess he's thinking about the misdirection stuff. So it's not guaranteed because misdirection. You could proc it with one hound.
Yeah, just got to do the numbers on what it means if the Leok dies, right?
Yeah, this might not be lethal even if the hound works because 17 plus the rhino and the is the direwolf a 4/4?
Oh, he traded first. Okay.
To prevent the hound from killing the Leok, I guess. I guess he did not have guaranteed lethal there, so it was just safer to do it this way. And yeah, Tyler's like not dead this turn, but
So do you die frenzy? I guess it doesn't matter now. Maybe it does. Do you die frenzy the dog?
I don't hate it.
Because it's just to maybe draw 1 mana 4/4 with charge. I do like the snipe.
Yes.
I definitely like the snipe. A die frenzy. Oh, okay.
I'm just pushing it.
Seems
now.
pretty expensive, but whatever. It's more damage now, isn't it?
Yeah, this just.
I thought you missed 5
Wait,
damage
wait,
then.
wait,
I was
wait.
like, ooh.
Now do the scale hides get Samuel to out of range?
There's a lot of damage there.
If
though,
all
right?
3 of those are 4/6s, I don't think they are though. Maybe 2 of them are.
There's also still a kill command.
And he's got the Bestial Wrath. So,
But he has to play around snipe too.
well, the 4/6 survives snipe, I think. It's good.
Oh, sure.
And he will see immediately that it's snipe and the other one is rat trap. So I don't think there's a way he gets through this turn without proccing the rat trap is the problem. You also don't see a great way of dealing with the 8/8 and the 5/5
Yeah,
and the
Bestial-
6/6 rat trap.
Well, that's it, right? The Bestial Wrath helps. And it's really funny, isn't it, that the rat trap's been live all game, pretty much. You know, from maybe like what turn 3 was it or so? Turn 3 was the tracking into rat trap, right? And it's not been procced, but it's definitely limited Samuel Sal's players.
For sure. Okay, so 22, there's 8 on board. Tyler needs 16 from hand. Sorry, 14. And
Yeah.
oh,
No, wait.
he messed up. But it won't matter most of the time, right?
Did he?
Over 2.
I don't know what he
I think
thought.
he thought he had 1 more mana. He hovered over the
Tyler,
Timberwolf.
5 at
Yeah.
5.
I don't know if he had lethal this turn.
So, if he pushes, it'll be... The Timberwolf is buffed, right? So it'll be 4, 12, 13... He could have pushed 18 and kill commanded? Oh no, it would have been... He could have pushed 20?
I think it was just short of
Yeah, I
lethal,
think
the
it was
other way
close.
around. And yeah, does Samuel to have a way out now? This is
Tyler's unhappy with his slide.
for sure. Yeah.
It's weird. I generally wonder. I think he might have, just thought that he could have played the Timberwolf randomly. But I feel like the Wyvern being a 5 cost is just a known thing. I feel like Die Frenzy and Wyverns happens all the time.
The problem is Samuel Sao. I don't think he has a way of punishing Tyler because there's still that problem of not being able to deal with an 8/8 and the rat trap if you proc it.
The real problem here is Samuel Sao doesn't actually have a way to win the game. He's not dying quite yet.
Fatigue is his win condition.
Well,
which is crazy. Though.
right. But I'm pretty sure with 18 million 5/5s that Tyler can keep summoning every turn.
Yeah, the big
Should be
difference
enough.
here is that Tyler has been sitting on that Rhino forever, and he has always had like the 2-pronged kind of approach to the matchup, which is Zul'jin for control and then threaten with your own lethal.
Yeah, and Tyler, he went out a little bit long there, but Tyler did get there. He was always in a pretty strong controlling position, mainly just for how late the Masters calls rocked up for Samuel Sao, but most importantly, Tyler ended up getting Master's Call a little bit late himself, but then ended up pretty much back-to-back and really took control after the Zul'jin plays. There was a little bit of maybe confusion or just a bit of as I throw my paper everywhere. Everyone drops just something just for a second, so maybe there was just that moment where Tyler thought he could play the Timberwolf as well, but it didn't make a huge impact on the overall outcome of the game, and he leads versus Samuel Zhao 1-0. Is this going to be a quick hunter sweep? We're going to find out after this.
Dalaran will be ours! Once we land, you know what to do! No we don't. You didn't tell us to play it. I didn't think I had to. It's perfectly obvious. Bank! I am to be robbing the bank! I take henchmen for vault smashing and shiny stealing! Plan is obvious! It's a start, yes, but...
You won't get a single coin unless you take care of the city's guards! Let's rip open Violet Hole and unleash the prisoners on the city! That'll keep the guards busy!
Certainly, but that's not...
No! First, we must sow chaos in the streets.
I got rockets! Anyone need rockets? Try to see the big picture! Shiny, shiny, shiny!
We have to break their will before we can loot, you fools!
Please, everyone, please!
Let's strap some rockets to the city.
Oh, big candle! And then we just take the whole shebang wherever we want! Yes! Finally, you're exactly right!
Seriously?
That's dumb.
Weak candle!
Just wait till second gear kicks in.
It's just like I said! We're going to take Dalaran for all that it's got! It's a genius plan! It's simple! It should have been obvious! And absolutely nothing will go wrong.
So, genius! How do we land?
One night, I was called on to scry. But what is this symbol I spy? It's my own crystal ball. Yes, I'll answer the call. And the others will come by and by. That's right. We be calling a team in. The masters of plotting and scheming. By this candle a-glowing, I surely be knowing whose gold will be once more a-gleaming.
We're going to get back to it with this Hunter mirror between Tyler and Samuel Zhao. Tyler got the bare end of the stick in game number 1, and I think that there was limited stuff Samuel Zhao could actually do. I think he made some decent plays to hold on to it. But let's check out what they've decided to move to in game number 2. They can move to their secondary or tertiary deck. And I believe that Tyler has actually gone to his tertiary deck with a +1 track in, the Elic, the Tundra Rhino, and 2 high mains at the expense of a Spring Paw, Hyena, Deadly Shot, and an Unleash. What do you make of this?
Yeah, it's super interesting because the tertiary is primarily there to deal with warriors, I think. But something like Savannah Hymain can be very good in the mirror just because it's so difficult to deal with, but I think it's conditionally good, just like in the old mid-range hunter mirrors. Like people were saying, Hymain's nuts in the mirror, others were like, it's really bad. Well, it's bad if you fall behind in the early stages of the of the game, and that's a possibility when you're cutting Spring Paw, when you're cutting Headhunter's Hatchet, and to some extent Deadly Shot. And I also think Unleash the Hounds is quite useful as well in the mirror. Very conditionally, though. I think it's really tough to say because these Hunter mirrors can go in so many different directions.
I think that's exactly the point, right? We've talked about the way the mirror plays out. It's not always the same way, but it's one of X amount of ways. Right. And if, just such as the previous game where it went to the late game Zul'jins and the big, dive frenzies were made, etc., we can check out Samurai Sao's list right now as well. But if it goes to that late game point, then yes, Tyler's list is better. The real question is, well, does he get to that late game point with these cards missing? Samurai Sao actually moved to his secondary deck, so both players being full believers in Savannah High Main, I approve, but an additional Tundra Rhino, a Stranglethorn Tiger, and a Life Drinker at the cost of double Unleash and double Tracking and a Deadly Shot. What about this one?
I mean, again, meant for Warrior, but I think it kind of works out well if your opponent, if you know your opponent's moving to Tertiary and they're cutting Springfall, maybe you can cut your Unleash, right?
Right.
And they're cutting, I think, Hyena as well. You need less removal, so maybe you can cut the Deadly Shot. It's very difficult to say. But I think the Tiger is great in the mirror because just being able to stick something, especially when they're cutting a Deadly Shot, I don't know if Tyler cut one. I don't think he did, but if that's a thing, then just sticking something to be able to push face with is super relevant.
Yeah, Tyler did cut a Deadly Shot, so you are right there. And honestly, the Stranglethorn Tiger, I'm a fan of in any sort of side hunter deck, and I feel like Stranglethorn Tiger has been one of the cards that's consistently been so close into making it to just standard hunter lists for literal years now, because it's so solid. It's just a 5-mana 5/5. The stealth makes it way more reliable to get the damage off, and then you can start building on if you Tiger and then the following turn trade into high and then play a high main. That is very difficult to come back from because the Tiger normally still survives the trade as well, so it's pretty huge. So I think if I had to call it, I prefer Samuel Zhao's list. Since both players are shifting, I think I prefer Samuel Zhao's here. So I think we might get a reverse sweep.
I think I actually am going to go the other way and say I prefer Tyler's because he's adding a tracking actually, which I thought was counterintuitive for the Warrior matchup because you generally don't want to fatigue too much.
Right.
And I think tracking is great in the mirror just because you need to draw into exactly Master's Call and Zul'jin at some point, and having that consistency and maybe getting rid of the cards you'd rather not have in the matchup could be very relevant. The Tiger for Samuel Zhao is definitely a big thing in his favor, though, because a lot of the times you just don't have something good to do on turn 5 in the mirror because you spend the early turns removing your own things, probably Mark Shot on 4. You don't want a Rhino on 5 because we saw how relevant it was in Tyler's game. Although you can do that now that both players are running 2 Rhinos, I think.
Right. There's a little bit more freedom to play out on curve. I just think Samuel Zhao's deck, although there's definitely alarm bells going off at double tracking being removed, but suddenly when you look at this hand, it starts getting a little bit scary. Like there is just a pretty or a heavier curve overall for Samuel Zhao, and even has the Life Drinker as a more consistent 4-drop too. So there is actually just more there's a 4-drop and then 2 5-drops and 2 6-drops added to the list, which means that, okay, Tyler might be playing for the late game, but Samuel Zhao might just not let him get there.
Yeah, and he's just got a stellar curve, the complete opposite of what he had last game, and now he's got none of the reactive cards and all of the proactive stuff.
Right.
That's going to be a big pain for Tyler to deal with because the Deadly Shot will not guaranteed hit this Hyena, which I would very much like to see being played right now.
Yeah, especially because Tyler actually cut his 1 Headhunter's Hatchet.
Yeah.
So there's very limited to no removal for this Hyena actually, and there's very little risk and a lot gained. Yeah,
tons of risk. He needs exactly Huffer because these things, they die to links. Oh my goodness, Raven. What this does though, I mean, yeah, the Timberwolf will still be on board, so the Deadly Shot won't be guaranteed.
I was just about to say that the sick thing about this play actually comes up very often, the Timberwolf into second links push. And this is good because it's protected from Deadly Shot to a certain extent, where at worst, Deadly Shots are 50-50, which is good for you. And now Tyler, assuming the face of someone who is upset about the way the game's going.
So this is the second of the 3 ways that I see the Hunter Mirror player out, which is 1 Hyena goes unanswered and GG.
Boom. He has to Deadly Shot.
Yep.
Literally doesn't have a choice.
Close his eyes and play the card.
Oh, GG. I honestly don't know what Tyler can draw because he's also cut one of his two deadly shots, so he doesn't have that. We're getting to the point where Mark's shot is going to be out of range too.
Yeah.
And even this Rhino to clear up this 1-1, which means the flexibility of kill command is out the window.
I mean, this game is over in very, very quick fashion. And even though it looks like a complete blowout, that's just the price you pay when you're moving between decks. And I really wonder, is Tyler gonna stay on this?
Well, that was one of the quickest games of Hearthstone we've seen in Grandmasters. Tyler head in hand. And sometimes you just get got. And that's what Samuel Sao did. And again, I
didn't know I was casting with Admirable, but yes.
Look, I've spent many years with these people. Some of their sayings do rub off on me sometimes. But yeah, this is a big deal. Like I said, just looking at the decks, Samuel Sao added a much more consistent curve, whereas Tyler added some late game and kind of the same.
Yeah.
But there were still some cards that were missing. And honestly, Headhunter's Hatchet, I feel, is good in the mirror. Maybe I'm just wrong. But I feel that that card has been one of the better cards in the mirror for me. But since that was lightning fast, we're going to go to a break lightning fast, and we'll be back with the final game of today. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
So you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Let me take a moment and break it down. We've been given black eyes by the good guys. Oh, but that's about to change. Those meddlesome mortals who've mucked up our missions will finally feel some of our pain. You see, I have a devious plan that requires a demonstrative fist, and each of you will have your dreams come true as a fiendish finger of peace. What? All right. Let me try this again. Alone all our dreams went. Kaboom! Yes, but united we'll take the candle. No fish bigger.
I'm seeing what you want to do.
Let me hear it.
We'll come together so we can dismantle.
Now here's the plot to capture your greed and intrigue. We'll take Dalaran for all that it's got. As we form an evil league.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure. The cards see a heart that is stony, and a totem that's all kinda bony. This witch in such danger will soon be no stranger, 'cause she's gonna be our new crony. We welcome you into this room, and we promise your enemies doom. Just one more who's coming. The last one I summon is a fella who makes things go boom.
Final game of the day here in the Asia Pacific region of Grandmasters, and it's Tyler versus Samuel Sao. It's a long drawn out game number one, and then a stomping in a couple of minutes in game number two as Samuel Sao did even it up. So now I feel like we just need the third way that the matchup is played out, and we've just hosted a Hunter Masterclass for everyone here. But I do believe both players are sticking to their decks that they played in the last game. So Tyler's slightly slower, but with more fetch with the trekking. But Samuel Sal's much more of just extra minion curve going on here. So let's see how it goes.
I think this has potential for way number 3. And that way, I think, is halfway between both, which is where they kind of go back and forth with the removal in the early games. But one player generally just gets to push a little bit of damage with 1 or 2 minions remaining throughout the mid game, and before the Zul'jin can come down, barring the possibility of your opponent going for Lifesteal Frenzy, Scale Hide Frenzy, might as well just call it Lifesteal because that's the card in a nutshell, then your opponent can just get there by chucking kill commands at your face, or even just a smaller condensed version of Rhino and a couple Timberwolves, even though they're not Dire Frenzied.
See, just a small thing there. Samuel Sal having to make the trade because he doesn't have a hyena, and if Tyler does have a hyena, him pushing 1 extra face damage is a nightmare because then he can make the trade happen himself. There is, though, the Animal Companion or the Master's Call for Samuel Sal, so he has the dream turn 3 of just the choice of what he wants to go for.
I didn't hate hyena on 2 there from Tyler, knowing that Samuel Sal does not play Hatchet.
Yeah.
And what's the answer on turn 3? You'd have to see double Spring Paw, which is like, you're not sad if they're doing that to get rid of the hyena. So the hyena, I think, the later the game goes, the worse it is in the matchup.
So you think you'd be okay with coin hyena now then?
No, now...
Do you think holding the coin's worth it with the hyena?
Absolutely, I think so.
It's tough though, because his bridge to that turn is kind of lacking, right?
So this turn is kind of bad to Spring Paw, but it does deny just an easy animal companion. It denies a Master's Call, I think. Unless...
I think you Master's Call to get the Spring Paw, right?
Sure.
And then to go... Because
Okay,
it is also only 3 damage. Oh, it's gone
yeah.
for... Wow, okay, okay.
Doesn't quite deny it, but at least makes it awkward. And Tyler gets, I guess, pretty much his plan here. Something sticks, and the Huffer there is... I think all the outcomes would have been okay because he could have like fit in the mark shot, the arcane shot as well.
Right.
But yeah, Samuel Sal has the response with the mark shot.
Yeah, the idea being that the Animal Companion on curve is 100% of the time dead.
Yeah.
Master's Call number 2.
Never hate another one. Yeah. Although the hand is super heavy.
That's why your Master's Call draws you cheaper stuff. You have the 2 rhinos in hand.
Make a strong point. With the secret plan, the only good secret I think is Rat Trap. There's a world where you can set up the freezing onto Hymain, although it's very unlikely that it goes off when Spring Paws are in the deck. Oh, but Tyler did cut one for this list, so... Oh, he takes Unleash, which is the last one I considered. Because... I mean, he cut double Unleash in this list, right? Yeah, Samuel Sal doesn't have any natural ones, so maybe just having that flexibility in case Tyler goes wide somehow. It's very close.
I'm guessing Tyler did just track in. Yeah, he picked the Master's Call. Not too much of a surprise with his hand. I do wonder what he does with his hand now, because there is 1 additional kill command that he got from the spell. Oh, this is so
Tiger on
nice.
curve. Again. Not that it was that big of a deal last game, but...
I wonder if he goes for the real dream, though. The Rhino into charging Hymain.
Oh,
he has a spare one, and what's the answer?
Well, Coin Unleash the Beast, I think, is the... yeah, huge punish. I definitely like the Tiger here. Like, your opponent probably answers with their own Hymain in that case, and then you get to trade that off and then play your own Hymain. And I think you're pretty happy with how it pans out. 2/2/2 versus your own Hymain here. Now he has the Deadly Shot though, so things could go a little bit differently. He could go for Elic Deadly Shot.
It wouldn't be too bad. It would use the coin, but he's swiftly getting to the point in the game where Tyler doesn't need the coin to progress that many of his turns. This could be the one swing turn he really wants.
I also want to highlight that with the Unleash the Hounds pick a while ago, it looks very strange, but because the Hunter mirrors can go in so many different ways, like I mentioned, it's more difficult than in other classes, I would say, to choose the right discovered options.
Especially when you know it's unlikely that the card gets played soon because you have a 5-drop into a 6-drop into, you know, then maybe gets played in like, you know, 3 turns down the line. It's a lot of foresight you require to actually make calls like that, especially when all 3 or even 2 out of 3 cards are good. It's kind of tough.
So it feels bad to trade away the 5/5 like this. But the other option of just going Deadly Shot Unleash doesn't feel great.
Could he have a high main and push?
Push face. Ooh, that's interesting.
Because you're always one ahead on board. You're always one big minion ahead on board. And what's Tyler do? And also it means Deadly Shot is tough because there's either a trade into a high main and Deadly Shot, or a trade into the 5/5 and Deadly Shot where you have 2 2/2s versus their 2/2s, except you have initiative because then it's your turn.
Tyler staying hydrated there. Not playing Water Rogue, but it's always good to have water.
Hydrated. Face, Samuel Sao. I'm channeling my inner hunter powers. I do feel like trading into the high main is a massive waste of damage. I love this play from Samuel Sao.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's clearly been a while since I've played Stranglethorn Tiger in anything, but it definitely makes sense.
The best thing about Tiger is it deals 5 damage to face very consistently. Now it gets, and this is maybe a sideways benefit that Samuel Sao isn't 100% aware of, because we can see Tyler's hand and he cannot, is that Tyler was the one who probably wishes he was doing the play Samuel Sao did, because he has double kill command, an arcane shot, dire frenzy for extra damage, a hero power of course. So Tyler's had to use his cards a little bit defensively now. He still has an additional, he has basically 3 kill commands throughout the deck. And now Samuel Sao, yes, he only has a 2/2 versus a high main, but he can just keep pushing damage, and I think I like the aggressive approach. Because if Tyler's going to trade once, he'll trade twice, and then maybe even 3 times. Animal Companion, Dire Frenzy, let's go.
I do like the approach from Samuel Sao, but I think for Tyler, he's not too sad about having to be the one playing control here, because he now has the Scale High Dire Frenzy, which is so crucial when the matchup pans out this way.
The biggest problem for him, though, is that he does not have a Master's Call to get at least a 2nd Scale Hide, almost guaranteed. I can't 100% say which unique beasts are in the deck right now, so I'm not sure if it is guaranteed, but it's close. I just like Dire Frenzy go.
Well, I think maybe you start with the Companion.
Yeah. Dire Frenzy and Animal Companion I won this turn.
If you get Leok or Huffer, is there any world where you trade?
No.
Oh, now you just Frenzy the Huffer. 100%. Yes.
There is no world you trade with a Huffer. Huffer goes face. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, Stranglethorn Tiger also goes face.
I was just thinking, if you get Leok,
my
mistake, do you trade in your 3/2?
Maybe.
But
because you could unleash as well, though, which would clear. So maybe it'll be worth with Leok. But now the 2 game plans kind of collide. Right? There's the Tyler's more control style approach with this Vicious Scale Hides now, and Samuel Sao has buffed Huffers in the deck. So the benefit, though, both players, it's actually fair and square. Both players have Master's Call too.
Yeah. I mean, Tyler having drawn the Master's Call, I think, is very comfortable now that he knows that.
That was a huge draw.
Yeah. Bunch of healing just waiting. I don't know if Samuel Sao necessarily wants to deal with the 2 2/2s, but definitely the Scale High needs to go. But I feel like leaving the 2/2s there helps you with your Unleash the Hounds game plan. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a guaranteed way to deal with the Scale Hide without having Tyler heal more.
Or just believe in the power of Deadly Shot. This is probably as good as it's going to get, right?
So it's a full clear, and Tyler goes basically to full 26 equals 30 as far as I'm concerned. And the game has reset, essentially.
It has, and it really is just Huffers versus
Scale Hides.
Scale Hides. It sounds like a weird Warcraft 3 custom map.
I think this might be reverting to number 1 again of the 3 ways. Yeah. Although it could still go differently because of those buffed Huffers. They present so much burst potential that if Samuel Sao can get a buffed Direwolf in the pool and then just having one,
buffer.
Can we buff Animal Companion too? And you just always get Huffer. Like officially.
Sometimes
officially.
sometimes Misha's really good though. Misha can tag team him. We can just leave Leok out.
Okay, so I feel like some measure of Deadly Shot is happening this turn.
You want to trade with a Huffer?
I just want to kill the 4/5, and it seems like that's the only guaranteed way to do so. Feels awful, but you still got 2 more of them.
And also, when
the
Tyler's
deck.
at 30 health, this 7 damage, although is extremely powerful to go to face, of course, the value of this actually deals more damage in the long run because the heals don't come down as often. So this is kind of dealing the damage anyway. Samusao can whip in a hero power and, as you said, kind of like start from scratch again with the reset.
Yeah. Though Tyler's definitely looking to be in a better position with just a variety of things he can do with his hand. It's not just saying one thing, right? Oh, that
so
too.
sick.
Buffs the Zul'jin.
Arcane shot to kill the Huffer and just hero power.
Yeah, seems great. You
See,
might drop a Spring Paw.
And this is
I
getting
don't-
scarier and scarier now because Tyler's can just Zul'jin next turn. And I like these because he has cards like Arcane Shot in the pool.
Right.
When he plays Zul'jin, it's always good to have multiple beasts, so there's less chance that if you have one beast and it dies because a kill command hits it, then you're missing Dire Frenzies and some other stuff, and damage potentially.
Also, it's early enough in the game where you're not worried about the counter Zul'jin because Samuel Tsao has not played too many spells. He's played a Companion, a Frenzy. He's not played Deadly Shots. He's not played Unleash the Beast.
Yeah,
which
he
are
played
the
one Deadly Shot.
did
He just did it on the Scale Hide, right?
Oh, right,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah. But he's not played Unleash the Beast, which is the kicker.
Is the big board fill.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think Tyler's fine to be first Zul'jin in this matchup. So maybe this is like way 4 or way 1B, where it is a control matchup, but first Zul'jin turns it a bit aggro at the end.
I think as
I don't
well,
know.
it started quite aggressively, but when the aggressive strategies counter themselves, the game naturally proceeds, right? And then cards like Dire Frenzy draw.
Maybe there's just more than 3 ways, but my brain is not big enough to comprehend more than 3. There's only 3 animal companions.
Able to squeeze in the Life Drinker as well. Bit of a shame to miss out on 2 damage from the hero power, but having the body on board is important just to keep the pressure up, because otherwise that would just be a 1-2 and that wouldn't be very good. Tyler now could play Zul'jin, but he's deciding to just front load all of this right now, get as much value as possible. There's another Unleash the Beast, an Explosive Trap, Master's Call. Maybe Explosive Trap wouldn't be the end of the world.
Honestly, he's played...
He's played 2 Master's Calls,
Yeah,
right?
so you never need the 3rd one with Zul'jin already loaded up. So
And Unleash the Beast is a long, long, long time to play another 2, which means I think Explosive's fine, because if it gets procced, great, it might kill a couple of minions, and most importantly, it's something that the Zul'jin can reactivate and cause some problems for Samuel Zhao.
No, I like it just as being a throwaway pick, essentially. It's like 1 less space in your hand, the easiest to cast post your Zul'jin. Very sad. The double Rhino hand.
Especially when they actually just get farmed by what's on board already.
This is a fat hero power pass, looks like to me.
Yeah, I don't really know what.
Oh, you might Rhino face? Maybe?
You could.
You could kill the 5/4, but it really hurts your soul if you do that.
Maybe you just Rhino face and let Tyler do something.
I feel
because
like,
the mana cost is so expensive that you never. If this is your approach, then you're never going to play 2 Rhinos. Samuel Zhao is not going to play these 2 Rhinos.
Yeah.
So at least play 1 and go face, and then just press hero power. He's going to choose to push even more damage. And you know what? I like this. This is correct because Samuel Zhao needs to draw Zul'jin. That's just a fact.
Yes.
If he draws Zul'jin, that's 10 mana. If he draws Zul'jin whilst pushing damage, he might win.
Wow, Tyler is just... I mean, I kind of wanted to see the Zul'jin there.
This So my question is, does this just get him just as ahead, if not more, than playing Zul'jin? I think it does.
Yeah,
he gets to push 5 damage to face. He progresses more minions. He heals as well.
Sure.
And so this does everything Zul'jin you want to do anyway. He gets the explosive trap down, so if it does get procced, if Samuel Sao keeps going aggressive, it's fine.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
This just locks Samuel Sao out of the game, to be completely honest. Zul'jin might have done the same, but why risk it?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, you're absolutely right, because this even beats the counter Zul'jin now.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's like, why risk it? This does enough. Yeah. Maybe even more. Maybe this does more than what a Zul'jin would actually achieve.
Yeah,
because you get the heal down, you're still pushing damage, so on and so on. And Tyler has a Zul'jin in hand, which just has to be good.
And because Samuel Sao had so few minions, things could happen like your mark shots hitting your own stuff, and it just kind of cancels out. So, yeah, I definitely like that from Tyler. And I think he knows he's got this one in the bag. So can this Zul'jin go terribly wrong? It can't, because there's a deadly shot. And you never spawn minions for your opponent. So the Rhino always gets cleared. Worst case scenario is your own minions also get cleared by things like Mark Shot and Kill Command.
Even if you Dive Frenzy hits Samuel Sao's Rhino, it either doesn't hit, or it hits and then it gets deadly shot, so it's fine.
And in that case, you have more Rhinos in your deck. Woohoo! This is, I think, always Zul'jin. But does this lose to the counter Zul'jin? I would also say no, because Samuel Sao...
Well, also, it gives Samuel Sao one
like he's already
single
asleep.
draw. Yeah. Samuel Sao's just napping ready for his next match tomorrow.
Yep. And to be
sorry, on
honest...
Sunday, actually.
I don't blame it at all. I mean, I don't think... barring the nutty second game, of course, the draws panned out very well for him. I think with the plays we've seen from him, he did understand the matchup quite well, especially like that Stranglethorn Tiger going face.
Yes, I like that a lot, yeah.
But yeah, sometimes
one player draws Zul'jin and the other player does not.
Yeah, and the Master's Call too.
Honestly, if you want any Hunter advice, generally, mulligan for Master's Call. It'll never be that bad.
Yeah. Agreed.
Right, if the one thing you do in Hunter is mulligan for Master's Call, then you are going to do something right at least, and that is going to be the game. Unfortunately for Samuel Zalway, he got so heavily locked out of 2 games he did lose.
Yes.
But great job for Tyler taking the win there, and good for Tyler's future as well, because he is going to be facing Shaxi, and Shaxi also has a Hunter on Sunday, so it means that, the more he's doing well in these Hunter mirrors, the more he can actually just, at least be confident in that win. But I think the decks were very, very close. The techs were a little bit different, of course. I do honestly still like the Stranglethorn Tiger as an inclusion in Hunter. But yeah, I think that matchup went pretty well for Tyler, and Samuel Sao just got locked out.
I mean, I think you mentioned all the key points. I'm just curious to see if Tyler was tempted at all to move back to his primary after that huge blowout of Game 2. And we could get some more insight from him later on. But yeah, this is definitely not the last we're going to be seeing from Hunter this weekend. It is the most represented class, and all of them of the same archetype this week. Nobody's messing around with Mech Hunter anymore.
I approve.
Yes,
I think Mech Hunter sucks, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the players are looking pretty good so far. That was day number 1. I do believe we are just trying to get hold of Tyler, so we're doing our best to make sure we can have a chat to him. There's a few things I do want to ask him, but that was a pretty big deal as well. Just give you an update on the standings here, is that Tyler was actually 2 wins and 2 losses, so he was even, but now he's 3-2, so he's now progressing into those positive results, whereas Samuel Sao goes down to 0-5. That is a mountain that he has to climb going forward, because he needs to start getting wins on the board, or he is in a bit of a rough spot in terms of just being able to play in the playoffs at the end of the season to potentially get a chance into the global finals. So it'll be absolutely huge. But any big surprises today for you?
Surprises is how often Edwin won Brawl, I would say.
Okay, reasonable.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm just happy that we got to see different pan-outs as to how the Hunter Mirror works, because I think it gets a lot of flack just because people are still having PTSD from old mid-range Hunter.
Right.
But yeah, it seems that the deck is a lot more difficult to pilot nowadays. And as for Samuel Tsao, it's really rough going 0-5, but I feel like his brings have been improving lately. I wasn't here to cast for the earlier weeks, but I do remember not liking the Mech Hunter choice at one point. And same with Staz, I think his list building has improved quite a bit, and it can only be a good trend, I suppose, to see, because there are still quite a few more weeks.
Yeah, well, I believe Tyler is ready now, so hopefully he can hear us. So you can hear me, Tyler? Oh, hey, mate, what's up? So first off, again, congratulations on the win. I just want to ask how preparation went for this week, and also how comfortable you are in Hunter mirrors, because you actually have 2 this weekend.
Yeah. So in prep, I prepped with Revius and Surrender, and basically Surrender was like, it's Bomb Warrior, and Revius was like, it's Hunter. So I was like, I don't know which deck to bring. And what made me decide to go with Hunter was that I just didn't want to bring the same deck 2 weeks in a row. I want some variety.
Yeah.
So, but I honestly couldn't decide. I think both Bomb Warrior and Hunter are just top tier, just really strong right now.
And what do you think of the mirror match? Because I think it's, me and Gio have been talking about how it's got multiple different ways it gets played out, and it's actually very complicated in certain turns because it does get so close so often.
Yeah, it's actually so hard, like deciding when to Dire Frenzy and on what minion to do it. And especially like Zul'jin timing. Zul'jin timing is so important. Like in game 1, I think it was really important that I waited as long as possible. And like I went for the plan to Dire Frenzy my Timberwolf to pressure lethal, so that he had to play his Zul'jin first, and that worked out. So I think that generally the person, if both have Zul'jin, the person to Zul'jin second is in a pretty good spot usually, because that one clears everything and keeps the board for yourself. And yeah, Hunter's just a really slow mid-range deck right now. It really isn't smart, so very often the game goes very long. I mean, game 2 didn't go very long. Yeah. Like I just died to the hyena. That happens sometimes. Yeah. But generally, like game 1 and 3, both games, went to like turn 10 and where you get to play Zul'jin.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's noticeable because like we both queued tertiary both times, right? Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask, after that game 2 where the hyena went unanswered, did you get a little bit tempted to go back to your primary so you had maybe the hatchet to answer it?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I trusted my gut feeling, and I trusted. Before the match, I asked Casey, my teammate, just to make sure. We queued tertiary, right? Like in the other games, and he was like, "Yeah, for sure." So I just trusted Casey on that one.
Okay, well, trusting Casey often works out pretty well. I've learned at least overall. But yeah, any final comments just about, for me at least, for the lineup, like you don't have to reveal too much, of course, depending on what you want to, but your secondary deck is also super interesting, like the Revenge of the Wild and Grizzlies, and only if you want to, do you want to explain what the logic is there?
Yeah, that was just for aggro, really. Like either rogue that doesn't play sap or token druid or zoo. Any type of like crazy aggro. If anyone decides to bring that, then that deck would have been good.
Okay, cool.
But it was definitely not for the Hunter Mirror. Like for Hunter Mirror, like Savannah high main, like if you have coin high main, that's just really good.
Okay, cool. Well, congratulations once again. We'll let you go and start prepping for the other match this weekend. So good job.
Thank you very much, man.
Okay, well, always good to hear from Tyler, just in terms of he does like to break down his thoughts and decks pretty well. So we can check out the results from the day, as this is match number 5 done. We only have 5 matches on a Friday. Chonsu took a 0-2 loss to Surrender. It feels way back when now, but questions have to be asked about that Druid, and is it going to get a win in Chonsu's second match of the weekend? Then Frosty and Tom60229 showing Paladin gets there with a 4-0 over Hunter and Rogue respectively, each going 2-0 of course, so Holy Wrath Paladin looking absolutely fantastic.
I mean, Holy Wrath, we were talking for just forever about who's exactly favored, but I feel like among the mage counters, Paladin, Rogue, and Hunter being the 3 premier ones, I feel like if Paladin is actually favored against those other 2, it just makes sense to bring.
Right, it's just the strongest pick.
Yeah, it is just very weak against Bomb Warrior is the problem, but I'm excited to see how it's gonna pan out throughout the rest of the weekend and in the other regions, and see if it only gets stronger after the buffs, probably. Yeah, and then match 4, we saw Staz versus Alutemu, which did come down to some pretty close decisions. difference. And unfortunately, even though I thought Staz was favored, Alitamu did very well pilot those rogue matchups to a victory there. And then we did just see Samuel Tsao versus Tyler, which I think was a great refresher for anybody who is not familiar with how the mid-range Hunter matchup works right now.
Yeah, I mean, you heard it from Tyler. Hunter isn't just a smoke deck and that kind of just, always go phase. You do actually have to play with full consideration to the late game, planning your Dire Frenzies, planning your Zul'jin timing. So Tyler played really well there. Shout out as well to Samuel Zhao. I think he did just get the unfortunate end of the stick in a couple of those games, but that's just the way Hearthstone goes. But there's plenty more matches coming up this weekend. On Saturday and Sunday, we will be back. But also, stay tuned if you want to keep hold of more Hearthstone and watch some more Europe as well, because that is coming up very, very quickly, and then America's going to follow after that.
If you want to see Mage, you didn't see it in APAC,
do want to see Mage,
but it will be showing up in the other regions, guys.
Yep, stay tuned. But thanks a lot from us for tonight. We are done, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.